Hello everyone, welcome to episode 218 of Floating Through Film. This week we start our series on the French film director Jean Renoir. Before we get into that, let me introduce my co-host here, Blake.
What's up?
And Luke.
Hi. So is it Jean Renoir, not Jean Renoir?
Jean.
I guess they're like a...
I thought it was Jean, but maybe it is Jean.
I'm just asking the questions here.
That's a good question.
It is Jean.
Damn, okay.
You're right.
It's a first.
But, I think I've been teasing this one for a while. But in a way, I feel like our podcast, and I'm going to kind of get to that in a second, but our podcast itself has been been coming to Renoir in a way. Do you guys kind of know what I mean by that?
Well, we've talked about him.
Yeah,
his movies quite a bit. I mean, we've talked about a lot of the ideas in his movies quite a bit.
Yes.
Obviously in the Rivette series, but also there's been other movies we've done or that we mentioned kind of a lot of the ideas that Rivette explores.
Yeah.
I mean, even all the way back to like Fellini, you could say.
Ooh, that's true. Actually,
there's some similar.
I didn't even think of him.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to go through?
But actually, yeah. Well, there's two I'm thinking of specifically.
Rivette
for sure, 100%. That was also a really big influence on. Renoir's also a really big influence.
Renoir's a really big influence on. I mean, Rossellini, no.
I mean, they both liked each other, but they're kind of the same era in a way.
Was it something you picked?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it Buñuel?
No.
Was it?
Saïd Jarrah.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I even talked about Ray.
You did. I was like going through your series in my head. I just could not.
Like think the river too. I mean,
I cannot think of Ray.
That was a big moment for in Ray's life when Renoir came to film that. But like, yeah, they both. You can tell like they even from their films and the way they approach actors and just like using the camera and stuff. You can tell they're. I mean, obviously they're much different in their own ways, but
they have like the same shot in Day of the like the shot, the swing shot in Day of the Country, and then.
Oh yeah, I tweeted that out.
Oh really?
I tweeted gifs of both.
Because I remember when I first watched A Day in the Country, I think I texted you like, I can see where Saïd Ray got the swing shot in Charlotte from, and then you were like, actually, it's from this painting.
Yeah. But he probably got it from that too. No, but it was at least Ray said it was from a painting. But actually, you bring that up kind of makes a good point. Wait, which movie did you see first?
I think it was Charlotte.
Because that was definitely me too, and that's in a way kind of like I'm saying, like those two later directors brought especially me to picking Renoir right now, and like that's the original reason why I watched Renoir in the first place was
because of Ray.
Yeah. And, because I don't know if you remember on the Ray, I'm going to tell it again, but on the Ray episode, I told the story about James Ivory when he visited India. I don't know if you guys remember, where someone asked him if he came to India because he was looking for Ray because he had seen Renoir. And then he said, no, I went looking for Renoir because I had seen Ray. Which is like basically my experience, which most people it's probably the opposite,
Yeah.
Maybe less so with Rivette, but I think Renoir is usually one of the kind of OGs people even learn about. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Especially like The Grand Illusion.
Rules of the Game.
Oh yeah, Rules of the Game too.
Rules of the Game might be my favorite right now.
Okay.
It's like that or French Can or Golden Coach.
Yeah, we're going to do that next week.
Which one?
The Rules of the Game.
Rules of the Game next week?
Yeah.
Nice.
But I know Luke has seen him before. Blake, this is your first time going through him, right?
These ones, yeah.
Yeah. Or just
Wait, have you seen any of them?
I've seen some or more. Not a lot.
I mean,
I've seen French Can for sure.
Oh, okay.
And Rules of the Game.
Well, let me just go with you first. Like, what do you think about him in general?
I mean, in general, I like him. I especially I do love French Can a lot. I've also seen. Oh yeah, we did the Southerner before.
Oh yeah, we
have
done Renoir on the podcast.
Oh shit, yeah.
Which the Southerner was really good. That actually has a lot of similarities with some of these movies that we're doing too. So, or with both these movies, but I've also seen The Woman on the Beach. Apparently, which I do actually kind of
What?
remember that movie. But
What, wait,
I do want to watch that.
which
actually.
movie? Wait,
The Woman on the Beach.
That's one of his later ones. Right?
It
no,
is. Well, it's got.
this guy, I swear.
Is it color?
No, it's black
Oh,
and
black.
white.
Okay.
What
It's
does it
1947.
even add on
though.
his profile?
It's kind of close to the Southerner. Like to the right of it.
Oh.
But no, but overall I would say I like him a lot. He's got a lot of humor in his movies that I kind of wasn't expecting, especially like we'll get into like Boudu Saved from Drowning, but
Why weren't you expecting it?
well, I guess like French Can I do think it's funny, but it's more like I feel like that one's more about the just the performance of these girls in general and the saving of this what is it again? Like the Rouge? Moulin Rouge, yeah. And then Rules of the Game, I don't remember that one that much. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a while since I've seen it. So, but
And there's a lot in it too.
God, that'd be so good.
But overall, I'm definitely excited to like learn more about him. Because I remember in the Southerner, I feel like one of the reasons you chose that before doing Ray was because of the just nature stuff in general and how man kind of comes together. And well, I maybe in the Southerner at the very least, like it's kind of got this not even like hopeful ending, but this hope in just like the community almost, but or this family unit kind of staying together even though they weathered this massive storm together. But
Oh yeah, because any of the movies like everything's been destroyed, but there's like kind of a hopefulness to it.
yeah, I mean that's definitely I feel like maybe different than these ones, but at least the nature shit is very similar to Day,
Well, I
to
think
Day in the
that's
Country.
I mean that's definitely why one of the main reasons I love them, which is a big part of this episode too. Obviously, with both these films.
Yes.
With how big nature is in them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll get into more of my thoughts of Boudu Saved from Drowning, but I would say I probably like that one maybe a slight bit more than Day in the Country, just because the main guy is fucking awesome.
I mean, these are two of my favorite Renoirs, as I said.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm not mad at that at all. Especially since... Because
he's also just doing a lot with just like class in general in that one also, which I know a lot about what the Rules of the Game is about too. Just like
and basically what Renoir's all of his films are about in some way, you know.
That's true, yeah. The Southerner too.
Like even Day in the Country, this is about like a kind of a Parisian bourgeoisie family visiting the country. But
no, yeah, definitely excited to learn more about him though, because I know that you always. I like the lectures that we get at the beginning of these podcasts. So.
No, I do. He's been I mean, there's been so much written on him too, so it's like impossible to read it all. But that's also one of the reasons I wanted to do him, because I know how.
Are we doing The Grand Illusion?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe I haven't decided outside week 2 yet. For sure, so.
Okay. Because if not, I do need to watch that one probably.
Oh yeah, you definitely
I haven't
should.
seen it, so
You definitely should. But Luke, what about you?
So Renoir, I've seen I think 10 of his movies. Let me double check that real quick. Wait, 4, 8, 10. Yeah, I've seen 10. I would say I definitely absolutely love him. I can't not say that. I mean, to me his movies are always. I love how full of energy they are, and also he's like a director who's. His movies are they're very he loves I can tell he loves life and people, but it's not in a super as Dany would say super modern Hollywood sentimental way. He's kind of how I would describe it is he loves humanity for all of its good things and also all of their flaws as well. I guess for their complexities. Which you can see definitely in Boudu Saved from Drowning, that movie. But he because I mean there's obviously the classic Renoir, everyone has their reasons. He's never
Yes.
I mean it's similar to Ray, how Ray was
I mean Revette too.
Revette too. Yeah,
showing complex humans instead of just good and evil.
No, yeah, exactly. And so I always love that aspect of his movies, but also they're just his movies are just fucking beautiful too, especially especially when it gets into color as well. Ooh,
Yeah.
It's amazing. But yeah, his movies, they're very like, I love watching them. They're very inspiring to watch. A lot of the times, they give me a lot of great ideas to think about. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about him, especially Rules of the Game, because there's some sequences in that movie. Like, he has some sequences, like the mansion scene, or I guess it's just like this. It's like the famous sequence in Rules of the Game where like it turns into nighttime at the mansion, and then like a bunch of shit starts happening. Like the mansion turns into like this maze and everything.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
No, that one's just like, it's gonna be impossible to talk about too because there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
With all the characters.
But
I do love that movie too.
Yeah. But yeah, I love him a lot.
No, I guess because you're the one who picked Rivette, let me read a quote I have from Rivette about Renoir.
Okay.
Where he said, quote, "In any case, Renoir is the person who has understood the cinema best of all, even better than Rossellini, better than Godard, better than anyone," unquote. And I can honestly really say it's like Rivette that kind of pushed me over the edge into picking Jean Renoir in the first place because of how much, because I really loved reading Rivette's like just theater, his critical writings. You know, when we were doing the Rivette series, I remember how much he just talked about this kind of theme of like you said, the kind of like art and life being one, you know, or the theater is life. Another way to say that. How big that kind of idea is. And I've always loved that theme too, and like so it made me want to just. And I've seen Renoir's movies in the past, like I really like The River and stuff, but it was kind of really probably initially Rivette, and then Satyajit Ray too.
Yeah.
That kind of pushed me over the edge. Like, yeah, I want to do him too, just to be able to study more about him. But first, let me get into some biography. So do you guys know who about his father?
Yeah.
Painter.
Yeah, the painter.
I've seen multiple of his paintings in person.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
Yes, we have. I'm trying to show them. I'm gonna put this in the video too, but I'm also showing them.
Hey, some editing finally. Let's go.
On the TV screen in front of us. First is this picture of Jean Renoir. That he's the baby right there. And that's his family, painted by his father. He was born in 1894, September 15th. So like right before the 1900s, you know, basically the dawn of cinema.
Yeah.
Like this is basically when cinema was being invented.
Like he was made in a lab for this shit, you know.
Yes.
He was like Mewtwo in this bitch, like.
Jesus.
Even though
actually Mewtwo was evil, so I guess that would matter.
I don't know, kind of. He's like an anti-hero. Like you kind of get his point of view. He's like a Godzilla type of creature. You know?
Oh really? Okay.
He wants to save the Pokemon. Renoir wants to save the cinema, you know?
He was a socialist hero.
But then also there's another one I want to show you. This is probably the one. You know how I use a picture of the director for each episode usually?
Yes.
Start? I'm probably gonna use this one. I love this one.
Damn. Okay.
This is a Renoir drawing as a boy. Jean Renoir, painted by his dad. But yeah, apparently, like you said, he was kind of created in a lab, but in a way, like apparently in his autobiography, which I haven't read yet, he says his desire was actually like to kind of avoid art initially, and he ended up joining the cavalry during World War I, just to kind of like, and he didn't have to.
We could have lost Renoir in World War One then.
Yeah, and he didn't really have to.
It's like Ozu in World War II, and I guess Ford also in World War.
He was in World War One though, Renoir.
But I'm saying we almost losing great directors in wars.
Yeah.
Although we did lose the paper balloons guy.
Yeah.
I forgot. Is it Hideo? Something?
Yamanaka, something like that.
Yeah.
Let me read what Renoir said. He said, quote, "I began to realize that my father was an important artist, and it rather frightened me, and I tried to set my mind to everything that was contrary to art. So I dreamed of being a businessman, a grocer, an agriculturalist in Algeria. I was very fond of horses, and so I wanted to be a cavalry officer," unquote. I mean, and also, I should have said this before, but like when I was doing like my deep dive on painting, and honestly, I probably did the most studying on Impressionism because it was like one of my favorites to learn about like how it started. But like sometimes you'll hear about artists, and then you're like you'll hear like a detail of like, oh yeah, their father was also a really popular artist, but like
Yeah.
you're like, there's no way they were as popular as like the guy I'm learning about, you know, because he's really popular. But like everyone that talks about Pierre Gus and Renoir, like they never mention his son, you know. It's like all these painters, like it's not like he's only like a side thought. Like he literally was one of the biggest impressionist painters. Like he's known as like starting the movement with two other.
It's like Kobe Bryant and his dad, you know.
No, it's like the opposite. No.
Well, no, because Kobe Bryant's dad was like an NBA player.
But
like,
I'm saying his, like, it would be like,
Kobe's dad was also Kobe.
You know,
it'd be like Michael Jordan.
I was thinking of the wrong thing.
No, I'm saying it's like if both people were Kobe or like both people were MJ. You know, like that's how the popularity of like his father was too in terms of the impressionism.
There's got to be one of these.
Like there probably are, but it's very rare, especially since like impressionism is known as like basically breeding a new genre of painting. You know, especially new modern painting. It's kind of crazy that like his son just ended up being like one of the great French directors of all time, you know.
Yeah.
And also like probably the biggest influence him and Rossellini on the French New Wave. And Renoir definitely was in terms of like actually talking to them and like being around them and stuff. So to me, it's like it's kind of always just blows my mind every time I think about that, because it's especially in art, it's hard to think of another example for me. At least on this level of like filmmaker. But like I said, he initially didn't want to be an artist, and I think this might have been after he came back from the war. Instead of being like an artist, he decided to get into pottery, which is kind of funny to me. And mainly I'm saying this because I want to read this quote that, you know, one of my favorite movies of all time, Mind of Clay. I feel like this could be a quote, like this could like be the header for Mind of Clay. He said, quote, "I came to the cinema in the most natural way possible. I was making pottery, and pottery of all the arts is the nearest to cinema. The ceramicist covers a vase, makes it, glazes it, bakes it. And after a few hours, he takes from the oven something altogether different from what he expected, just like the cinema."
Glazes it.
Oh my god.
That's all I took away from that.
Yeah. But basically, obviously he ended up becoming a film director. And this is kind of... I want to talk about at least two major influences on him. And I thought Blake was going to mention this at the beginning, but who do you think he calls, like, basically... He says that basically it was, like, his initial revelation to cinema.
Chaplin.
Yeah.
I mean... But
exactly.
Yeah, Boudu Saved from Dany. I mean,
I thought you were going to mention it already. But...
Well, yeah, I was going to save it for the actual, obviously, movie. Okay. But yes, obviously.
Yeah. Because he says he talks about it a lot over the course of his years. Well, he'll say like he really didn't like French cinema at the time. See, this is
even
actually
the silent cinema. The like Phantomos and all those. Like, did he not like those type of movies?
I don't know,
because they're French.
He does talk about Max Linder.
Oh, okay.
I did like
Max
him.
Linder.
But basically he talks about like it's funny, he talks about this the exact same way the French New Wave talks about how they didn't like the French tradition of cinema at the time and they liked the American films instead.
Okay.
Because let me read what he says. He says, quote, "Weren't the American films I loved so much, and the actors who transported me, scorned and even totally ignored by most of our critics? How could I, who dreamed timidly of following in their footsteps, but never hoped to equal them, how could I have conceived of having the slightest chance in this pedestrian country of mine?" And he's talking about how initially that's why he didn't want to make films, because like the French critics didn't value what he valued, which is like which was Chaplin. But then who do you think the second director is
that he loved?
Yeah.
Murnau, Dreyer, American silent film director.
Yes.
Like mainly silent film.
Yes.
Griffith.
He did like Griffith. I've
Okay.
seen it, but this is not the second. This is like basically what.
Give me a hint.
I mean, it's not Keaton, or is it Keaton?
Let me see. I'm gonna. This book I'm getting from, who I'm gonna mainly from this week, is called Boats on the Marne. Jean Renoir's critique of modernity. And he mentions basically Chaplin as the first kind of defining moment in Renoir's career, and he mentions this second director as the second. And let me say, I'm going to describe what he describes, guys, so you can guess it. Because he says, it's similar to Renoir, who Renoir got the idea from, of a combination of a realistic diegetic world with complex human types. You know, where you have like very like you still have
Lubitsch?
types. It's a good guess.
Or is he
no.
German at the time?
He did make films in America.
Okay.
So it's still a good guess.
Really?
This is actually another German that made films in America.
Oh shit! Okay, German.
Oh
Okay.
wait, it's Borzage. Wait, or no? Fuck.
Come on, dude. No one's saying that.
I was thinking of Eisenstein. I was like, someone like Borzage.
Plus, I heard someone say it differently the other day.
Really?
Like Borzagi.
Borzagi?
Or Borzagi or something. I forgot what they said. But
I'm not calling it Borzage.
Look it up.
I'm
Look
gonna be
it up.
honest,
Look
bro.
it up. Look
I don't
it
care what the proper pronunciation. I'm not calling it Borzage.
What if it is?
I'm not, or Borzagi.
Borzagi.
Borzage is fine. That Borzage sounds good to me.
Of course.
He's dead. He doesn't give a fuck. Like,
Wow. Wow.
oh no. All the never mind. But
if someone says House Su, all of a sudden just like a crime against racism or whatever.
oh, I'm being racist by not wanting to call it Borzagi.
But that's calling it by his actual fucking name.
That's close enough.
I don't even know if that is true, by the way.
Borzagi?
I just I heard someone say it differently. I'm like, is Luke been saying it wrong this whole time? Just because it sounds better?
Borzagi. All right, sorry. Okay, so the hint
We
was
still haven't got it though.
He's
full
German.
complex characters.
He's German.
Complex human types. That's a big word there. Types with a realistic diegetic world.
You sure it's not Marne now?
No,
Okay.
but it would also be yes.
Oh, Victor Sjordstrom.
Another S director. Greed.
Oh,
Foolish
Stroheim.
Wives. Yeah,
I
Stroheim.
forgot Stroheim's German. Yeah. That
He-
makes a lot of sense.
No, he
They both
talks
are
about-
bald too.
He what?
They're both bald.
Defining characteristics.
Also, he's in The Grand Illusion. Stroheim.
That is true. As
So
well,
I mean, that's
yeah.
the best. That's the best kind of crossover there. And he's playing like
Both have acted in their movies.
multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, Renoir's even in this one.
That is true. Yeah.
He's in Day in the Country. But yeah, no, he really loved Foolish Wives too.
Okay.
Well, why do you think he loved these two directors so much?
I definitely.
Is there anything that they kind of,
Stroheim makes sense because Stroheim was like critical of
especially
the
how
bourgeoisie.
Yes,
And I think, yeah, obviously,
but especially using these types, he
Yeah,
has kind of clear
use
types.
types.
Like this is like the maid, this is the
Yeah.
rich middle class person. This is the.
and then Chaplin.
In the Chaplin one, I'm kind of more focused on like, why do you think he loved Chaplin so much? And this
It
is
makes
kind
so
of
much sense, but I don't know how to say.
and this is kind of an extension of like American cinema too. Like, why do you think he liked American cinema versus French cinema?
Um.
And I'll give you a hint. It has a little bit to do with what we talked about last week.
Fuck. What did we do last week?
The mainstream.
The Hong Kong, yeah.
Just like the joy and stuff in the cinema.
No, the mainstream is kind of like he liked the idea of a popular art.
Popular art. Okay.
Yes. Especially Chaplin. This
Yeah.
idea of. Let me read this quote, because this is where I was going to mention Max Sennett, where he says, especially he loved the kind of public that Max Sennett was dealing with versus like the kind of more intellectual crowds, you could say.
Just the common
Later
people,
on. Let me read what he says, because he says, quote, "An essential element in the quality of any work of art is simply the quality of the public from the artist gets his living. Max Sennett was an ideal public, a working-class public largely composed of newly arrived immigrants. Many of them knew very little English. The silent cinema exactly suited them. Today's public is composed of the children of those primitive audiences. They come from the university. They live in a world of advertising, newspapers, and weekly reviews. They behave according to the principles instilled in them by the most effective publicity media, the most quote-unquote artistic, and the most entertaining. For their benefit, the film factories churn out heroes and love, or worst of all, psychology." Unquote. And I mean, that makes sense, like, why he would love Chaplin, and it's kind of his ideal, like, cinema. And, like, that's where, we kind of talked about this last week, too, this idea of, like, the film festival films that get
Yeah.
put in versus, like, what Hong Kong cinema was trying to do, which was more just, like, a mainstream popular art.
I looked up the Borzage pronunciation. And it's even worse than what you were saying.
Borzagi?
Borzagi.
Borzagi? Frank Borzagi?
I'm not saying that, yo.
That's your man's. I mean, you love him. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's not a big deal.
I'm not calling him Borzegi, though. I'm not gonna lie.
So you're just gonna say it wrong, like,
I can-
out of
yeah.
ignorance from now on?
I'm gonna call him Frank.
I can get
actually.
behind
I'm just gonna call him
Borzegi.
Frank now. That's my boy Frank. If they don't know who I'm talking about, then that's too bad.
Who's Frank?
The director of History is Made at Night, and I've Always Loved You.
I don't think it's that bad. You just like wanted to be Borzage so bad because it sounds like.
It sounds cool. I like the name Borzage. Until
If you have a kid, you should name them Borzage.
No.
Why? You just said it was cool.
Now as a first name, that'd be weird.
It kind of works, Borzage. It's unique.
I guess, but like, sometimes when some people name their kids, and I'm just like, that just stick with something basic at that point. Like, don't even go that way, you know. Anyway, I'm not gonna name any names because I don't want to diss
Like
anyone.
Luke.
Luke's like the most basic ass name though.
All right. Let me get into my main topic for today. This is basically it's a way to define like what Renoir's philosophy is, and I'm getting it from this book by Prakash Younger. And I'm going to explain. Let me just start with kind of like a cultural background. I think is really important, and we kind of already mentioned at the beginning, but basically he says Renoir, especially in the 30s, he tried to combine these two what he calls cultural idioms, or basically these two kind of almost like cultural genres of romantic naturalism with classism, and that's what he says he's trying to. So let me kind of read what he says. Like basically a brief history of what both kind of are. Where he says romantic naturalism, which first started by who he says its philosophical assumptions were first put forth by this guy named Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Rousseau is like how he's basically known by.
Yeah.
And where he says, it'll make sense more after I read both, but he says first, Rousseau's distinction between solitary and authentic natural man and self-conscious social man. So basically Rousseau kind of makes this distinction between this natural man who kind of exists in the past, who's more authentic, versus the man of today who's kind of driven not out of his natural order because of social conditions. He sees this romantic tradition sees fatalistic relations between character and milieu, and then this is also important where he says, and it assumes that irrational character-centered passions are always stronger than the reasons that society or the individual may try to oppose or govern them with. The fuck is that?
YouTube thumbnail.
He just showed us a YouTube thumbnail of Rousseau. On
It's
YouTube.
like an AI version of him with like lava with his mouth wide open, be like, oh.
But basically, I mean, this is kind of like if you want to think about one person maybe that in this tradition maybe is Buñuel. When you think about his characters are driven by passions over
yeah, definitely
reason, a distinction between like a kind of a natural person versus like a person now that are just driven by social conditions, especially like the bourgeoisie or something, you know. Yeah. And then he says so this is Renoir trying to combine romantic naturalism with neoclassicism. And this is probably the most important point of this is neoclassicism fails to make any distinction between a social and natural man, right? So instead of saying there's a modern man now who actually could be a natural man, but he can't now because of modernity. Classism says there's actually like that's just a false distinction. Like those are one and the same thing always. Neoclassicism also conceives of characters as social types, with fixed behaviors, and in that sense, natural behaviors, right? Yeah. So these types, instead of saying they behave the way they do now because they're actually withdrawn from like a natural world that could make them better, it's like there are certain types in the world, and they behave naturally, you know? And then, those are basically actually the two main points that I want to say. And I think those are important because, like I said, Renoir, getting from Stroheim, he works in these kind of types, you know, that we see. Especially in these films, especially in Boudu, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
But honestly, in both of them.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, like, what he says is, by creating a dialogical confrontation between generic idioms idioms like Romanticism and Neoclassicism. Renoir attempts to force reflection on the inherent contradictions between both. Basically, in a way, like, kind of combining both of these genres in a way to make you think about how people act in the world. And he points out, and I'm going to mention it later, he points out there's basically a major shift that happens in A Day in the Country, where the genres almost shift. If you can kind of see what happened, and like in that film, I guess I can kind of say it now. Where if you're watching it for the first time, most of the film kind of feels like what it, like he would call it like a neoclassics comedy, you know.
Okay, yeah.
Where like you're not actually expecting any kind of true love or anything to happen, and then all of a sudden he says it kind of shifts into a romantic film. All of a sudden, you know, just basically in a few shots, and that's like basically how it ends, you know. But I'll talk about that more in a second. To talk to my main thing, so I'm gonna kind of skip over it, but like he has this concept of what he calls the chronotype that he gets from a literary theorist, and he says like basically a chronotype is a different way to think about genre. You know, instead of chronotype, where like genre has like kind of fixed like destinations, and says like basically chronotypes are supposed to be more open, etc. Like I don't want to get too much into it. But basically, what I'm bringing this up is he kind of like instead of like genres, he has like Renoir has different chronotypes in his 1930s films, and one of them he calls is the Cytherean chronotype, which is he calls the Cytherean tragicomedy, and these are the two films he mentions. So this is why I'm bringing it up. But have any of you ever heard of like the mythical island of Cythera? Cythera.
No, I don't think so.
Let me. I actually had another painting.
Say it again.
Cythera. I'm pretty sure that's actually how you say it, but this is a classic example of the painting. Like it's it's named after the mythical island of ineffable pleasures. And he says this is a painter named Antoine Watteau. I mentioned
Watteau.
this.
I like that last name.
Watteau. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Watteau. I'm gonna stick to that, no matter what it's pronounced as.
But apparently, like this is a key kind of reference point for a lot of his paintings, and that island's supposed to be in the background, and apparently the painting's supposed to be ambiguous whether they're all leaving from the island or if they're going to the island too, which is kind of interesting. But it's mainly about. It's mainly about the kind of mood it's supposed to evoke, you know.
I like this painting. I like the colors a lot.
I know. Actually, let me ask you this: you guys look at the painting. What kind of mood do you think this is evoking?
Friendship.
Friendship?
Or just like, I don't know.
I would just say dream.
Dream.
Good vibes.
Dreamlike.
Like, what about the relations in the characters?
Maybe family?
Family. They're supposed to be couples. If that helps.
They still could be friends.
I mean, maybe in the background there's some family. I mean, they're definitely all friends.
Friendship, family. Friend, family.
But either way, definitely friends.
Family. Anyway.
The main one I'm actually looking at is like the one in the very foreground on the right.
Yeah.
The way they're acting, those two.
Yeah, the two just sitting there holding each other.
Apparently he had this genre called the fête galante. These are all French words. I don't know if I'm saying right. But basically, this was a genre of like these kind of like rich people in a country setting with like greenery all around, you know. But what delineated Watteau from the other painters at the time that also did similar ones is that he says he rarely depicted erotic acts directly, but instead focused on pauses and distractions from the action of the hunt. I think that's where like you can see the kind of Renoir influence, you know, of you're not actually showing anything directly, but like you're kind of showing in between moments of just like
just a trumpet.
Yeah, just a trumpet. The one example they really point out of he says a representative example of what he calls a Watteau pause is in A Day in the Country. Or he says a Watteau pause is when a male figure is actively intent on a female, while the female is somewhat passively resistant. So in like A Day in the Country, he points out the boat scene, where like
with the mom.
No, when they're both in the boat together alone, at the very end, in the water, and how she's kind of hesitant, and he's like kind of coming onto her. You know, he even points out the shot. It's like very similar to like that shot, that kind of a vibe, with the guy on her shoulder. And he says in Watteau's paintings, although love is the subject matter, the aesthetic structures actually force us to contemplate time and mortality instead. So like like where like a lot of the subject matter is supposed to be erotic love, it actually doesn't really make you think about that in terms of more of like a more wider scope of things, you know. Mm-hmm. This is where he says the hypothesis of his whole book, but this is why I picked it this week, where he says Renoir's belief in Cythera, which he calls basically enchantment in the present. Renoir believes Cythera as the permanent ground of human experience, and his critique of modernity was based in this conviction. And this is why I mentioned the whole romanticism versus neoclassicism idea of like what man is, because talks about how I mentioned how, you know, with the kind of modern world, like Rousseau brought up, like the romantic tradition kind of sees like this experience is like somewhere for a natural man in the past, you know, that this is really not accessible to us. And Renoir in a way kind of wants to get back to this idea of like the present can be enchanting itself. And he says although these are the two films we're doing this week, he says this idea also applies to The River, The Golden Coach, Elena and Her Man, and Picnic on the Grass. And I'm pretty sure we're going to do probably 3 of those. So,
which ones?
The River, The Golden Coach, and Elena and Her Man.
Elena and Her Man. That's one of the ones I haven't seen.
But I 100% haven't decided yet, so we're going to do 2 for sure. He says another example of another basic idea of this Cytherian chronotype is characters are motivated by an external force that attracts them, but this external force can't be reduced to sexual desire. It is desire without a clear goal or orientation. I think that's it's very clear in Boudu too, how like basically everyone is driven by this kind of like especially Boudu, like even the way he moves and stuff. It's like this kind of like he doesn't even know exactly why he's doing everything. And he compares it to a boat that happily yields itself to a current, not knowing the destination. You know, it's just like willing to be taken by nature. You know, and so then this basically gets to probably the main reason why, at least this week, why I wanted to talk about Renoir and why I brought up this whole romantic tradition, especially. And you know, this is probably a defense for myself as well, because you guys always hate on me for what I'm going to talk about now. Is
the revenge.
Renoir's critique of the romantic tradition, you know. So let me read this quote first, where he says, I even think the reality of romantic adventures is the one that is the most deformed, even more than that of films, novels, or newspapers. It's insane how lovers who fight can suddenly see facts in the world through a distorted glass and lose all sense of reality. It's the romantic tradition. We have to deal with the 150 years of romantic tradition concerning love, women, the way to approach women, what we call emotions. Because romantic adventures are often used as the basis for literature, and because those romantic adventures are very distorted, we wind up with the literature and films that are rather distorted, unquote. And so, yeah, that's kind of like exactly what I say all the time, you know, like, this is why so many films feel like just distorted notions of romance, and like what it even is. And it's like systematic, you know, it's not just like this one film I hate or something, usually. But then he compares this to this idea of classicism, you know, neoclassicism, the other tradition I brought up. And he says, quote, I think that if one wants to create a classical work, one must do that. The idea of artificially attracting the audience's attention to certain elements, to a star, for example, is a purely romantic idea. Even in painting, in drawings, modern people are used to romantic simplification and get lost when they see classical works such as tapestries. they find them a bit busy. They aren't actually busy, but classicism contains an idea of evenness that no longer exists in romanticism, unquote. And to me, that's like the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, because like that's what I love. That's what I love about films. It's this idea of evenness. You know, where like every shot can be equal value. You know, no matter what you show, it could be a shot of nature, a shot of a bird, a shot of a human. You know, it's all the same on the same level. And that's why I hate the kind of like romantic-driven star attractions. Do you remember when I brought up this idea of classism before on What Director?
Like what like classism and like say
Like in art, like this idea of a classism in art versus basically an older art tradition.
Bresson?
No, it was Maya Deren.
Oh, never.
With because I remember it said another person in the tradition would be why am I forgetting his name? Orpheus.
Oh, Cocteau.
Yeah, Cocteau, exactly. You know.
Damn, forgettable director for it.
Well, Cocteau is interesting just in general. Like, even thinking about, like, what you've been saying with Renoir, because he's kind of almost the polar opposite, at least in youth. Because, like, you're saying, like, Renoir didn't want to be an artist. I feel like Cocteau almost, like, got lost in that world.
Like, he's
to
not,
the point
he's not
that's,
scared to
like,
say
bad.
he's
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's not scared to say that, but he also, like... He had a lot of addiction problems whenever he was younger. Like, he was in the... He experienced the art world for kind of, like, what it really is also. I don't know. I mean, I'm interested to see more of Renoir's movies. Just to,
no, it's always like, interesting. In terms of subject matter, they're way different.
No, yeah, it's always interesting watching someone whose parent was, like you said, massive in art in just the art industry in general. Because like it's interesting to see what they come up with.
Yes,
how they try to be different.
Because I know a lot of people really point to A Day Within the Country. We'll talk about that in a little bit. That was him almost returning to his dad's roots of Impressionism. Like, that's more of that's his Impressionist painting. Versus a lot of his, like, 30s films are more, like, realistic, you know, more grounded. But, like, you know, Boudu's kind of has a way different kind of tone. But, yeah, to keep going, let me just read, because I really like this. Prakash Younger points out 4 points of Renoir's critique of Romanticism. First, he says, Romanticism. First, Renoir identifies Romanticism as the root of a broad spectrum of ideological tendencies that veil or obscure reality. Basically, this idea of like, you know, Renoir believes that the present is where experience lies. You know, but he believes like romantic understandings of the world kind of veil that instead of like presenting what's actually in front of us. And you know, I have to mention this like I do with almost every director. I feel like that's a very Buddhist idea as well, of like basically our conceptions of the world, of what we kind of are like told to desire, kind of prevent us from actually seeing what's in front of us. You know, like our actual impressions. The second point he says is understanding the problem of Romanticism entails reflection on the large scale narrative of cultural history. Also, why I brought up this kind of, at least a little bit background of this idea of Romanticism versus classicism. And then this is an important one where he says, Renoir reverses the romantic understanding of reality as the experience of disillusionment. And then he says, where reality of the present is always experienced as less or worse than we thought. And then basically saying like, opposing this kind of Rousseauian belief of saying the present, we can't have true experience in the present, you know, compared to natural man in the past, you know, kind of trying to eliminate this kind of that dichotomy, where he says, the enchantment of Cythera is the primary or permanent cause behind all experience, and then this kind of like disenchantment we have at the present are only secondary effects, like they're not, we can kind of overcome them, you know. Yeah, those are the ones I really wanted to say. And then what he says is basically, instead of this kind of romantic tradition, what Renoir is trying to return to is a, quote, Janus-faced Cytherean chronotype. And this is the last picture I'm going to show you is, do you guys know what Janus-faced is? Have you even heard that term? I had not heard of
Janus what?
Yeah.
Janus face?
Like the god Janus, I think. It's a Roman god.
Let me look up what she looks like.
Well, I'm going to show you a
Is this
picture
what
right
Janus Films is based off of?
Maybe.
I was thinking of the Drake song.
But this is what a Janus face person or god is.
I've definitely seen that picture before.
Is this who
well,
Drake,
like, what's the obvious
wait,
significant part
is
here?
this the Janus that Drake was telling to shut the fuck up?
Is that a rapper or something?
Drake.
Does he say that?
He has a song called Janus Shut the Fuck Up on his album.
But that's Janus, probably Janic.
Oh, is it different?
Janus.
Oh.
It's a...
Close enough.
But, like, what's the major part of this? Like, why is this called Janus Faced?
Like Two-Face?
Yes, exactly.
It looks like that one guy from the first Harry Potter movie. Professor Quirrell.
Damn, what a crazy
He's
fool.
like Voldemort on the back of
No,
the
yeah.
Wait, the turban. He's like the turban.
Who?
Professor Quirrell.
Professor Quirrell in Harry Potter.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
He's the bad guy in the first one.
He has like Voldemort attached to the
I
back
haven't
of his
seen
head. And has like a turban covering him up. And,
It's hilarious. That's a crazy fool, dude. Like,
I mean,
so
it's like...
funny. You didn't even watch them this year. I'm the one that watched them this
Well,
year.
like, I grew up on those movies, and like, come on,
That's true.
like, how
No,
do you not
definitely,
think of it if you look at that?
Basically saying, like, Renoir's films have this kind of two-faced nature, you know, like, they're a reflection on romanticism while showing them, you know.
Yeah.
And, like, this is the main point if you don't remember anything else, like, basically, if you want to describe Cythera, he describes it as a pervasive and ambiguous experience of reality, you know. Instead of this kind of romantic notions of passions, the experience of Cythera is way more ambiguous, you know. It tries to show more of everything, you know, like that kind of evenness I talked about.
Well, I mean, there's that...
And that's from a belief of all of reality is kind of, you know,
Well, that
enchanted.
kind of reminds me of... I don't know if you ever mentioned, because Andre Bazin wrote a book on Renoir.
Oh, I'm going to read some quotes.
Okay. I don't know if you're going to do La Chienne at all during the series.
I don't think so, but maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
But in his review, it's one of my favorite writings. Or like the one I'm about to read is like one of my favorite things anyone's ever written about a director because it's like really interesting. Because in one part of it, he said, in La Chienne, the dialogue and direction of the actors reach the sublime. Difficult to define, the style seems to be the simultaneous expression of the greatest fantasy and the greatest realism. And to me, that's
greatest
like
fantasy and greatest realism.
yeah,
yes.
It's like that's kind of what like when you said evenness,
Yeah,
and kind of like how it's like
yes.
I forgot what you're exactly saying, but
Yeah,
to me, like this concept is like how he like balances the two.
yes. Actually, that's a perfect kind of segue to like. I'm going to read a few quotes just about Renoir, like from the man himself, kind of talking about this idea of what Prakash Younger calls this experience of Cythera that Renoir is so special with. And like you said, this idea of combination of reality and fantasy.
Yeah.
Renoir says, quote, "When you drive around at night on the roads outside Paris, you're in a fairyland. In the end, reality is always fairy-like. In order to avoid making reality seem fairy-like, certain writers go to a great deal of trouble to present it in a truly strange light. But if we leave it as it is, it's fairy-like," unquote. And like, I mean, that's what I get from, that's from all my favorite directors, honestly. Like, Ozu and Bresson, my two favorites, you know, on certain days. It's like, I mean, and Monica, like, all of them have this kind of belief, you know, just like, all of reality has this kind of enchantment to it that's worth filming, you know.
Yeah.
And then let me read a quote that's kind of similar. It's a little longer, but he also talks about the romantic tradition too. So it says, quote, "I love reality, and I'm happy to love it because it brings me infinite joy. But it happens that many people hate it, and most human beings, whether or not they make films, whether they're workers, store owners, or dramatists, create a kind of veil between reality and themselves. And in order to create this veil more easily, they use elements provided by society, the people around them, conversations in the street, newspapers, theatrical productions. This veil is extremely monotonous, because it becomes the same for everybody. And so when someone pierces through it and shows the reality behind it, people say, oh no, that's not true, that's not the way it really is. But it is the truth. After all, the reality is in being enchanted. It demands great patience, work, and good faith to find it. I'm convinced, in any case, that it isn't a question of talent or gifts, just of good faith. If you want to find reality, you'll find it. You just have to eliminate whatever seems to you to have been created by the habits of your time. to eliminate these habits first, but to take back later the ones that seem to conform with reality. The reality of daily events, of romantic adventures, is absolutely twisted, deformed, as if they were seen in a funhouse mirror, unquote. And I mean, like, maybe in a way this will always come back, because, like, I just grew up with it, and in a way I'm maybe always Christian in a way, even if I, like, don't go to church or read the Bible. It reminds me of one of my favorite verses from Jesus. I don't know if you... is there any verse from Jesus? Blake definitely knows.
Jesus will.
You'll know the quote after I read it. But let me
John 3:16.
No, that one's too easy. But this one's pretty popular too, where Jesus says, quote, "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to whom who knocks it will be opened." I feel like that's exactly what Renoir just says. Just 2,000 years later, this idea of like reality itself is enchanted, but anyone can find it. Just like, and this is where the Buddhism comes in, where it's like he says you have to just eliminate the habits or like conventions of your time to be able to see like what's actually in front of you. And like that's, you could say, the main thing about what Buddhism is about is like eliminate the habits of the mind and the body too. But
one of my favorite quotes from Jesus is whenever someone asks him, like, where is God in the world or whatever, and he's like, it's in the birds, the trees, everything around us, basically.
Yes,
because that's also just very Buddhist in general. But
yes. I mean, also Jesus, Tolstoy actually, the only thing I've read from Tolstoy is a non-fiction thing he wrote on the verse Jesus has, where he says, "The kingdom of heaven isn't within you," and like Tolstoy wrote this whole thing. God damn it. That was all you though, because I feel like that's not even a common phrase or anything. But so yeah, to go back to basically Cythera, kind of wrapping up, like this idea of if you want another kind of thing about romanticism that at least Prakash Younger makes is he says romanticism kind of makes this distinction between, like I said, this you could say a utopia of the past, right? This state of nature that we once had that now we don't have, but also this romantic tradition stemmed this idea of futuristic utopias that we could also have in the future. That if only we had those utopias, we could also achieve the same natural state. We just need to get there, you know. And you can imagine all kinds, like even like this idea of capitalism or communism or all these, you know, this idea of like we should reach an ideal state of living. We can also really reach that state of nature that we once had. But Renoir's films are basically so instead of those two utopias of past and future, you could say Renoir's films are the common and ordinary utopia of the present. And he says, quote, "In Renoir's Cytherian films, the contingency of nature is used to express a sense of possibility and openness, the common and ordinary utopia of the present, the new world that can appear whenever the faculty of loving attention causes our willfulness to give away." Basically, you know, valuing loving attention over our will. And then he says, and to kind of relate it back to these two films, he says the ground of Cythera, basically this idea of enchantment, either appears at the end. This is basically that state of nature that appears at the end of Boudu Saved from drowning. You know, this idea when he goes back to nature. Mm-hmm. But also he says disappears at the end of A Day in the Country.
Yeah,
where now they have to go back, you know, to reality. And he says, in either case, nature as Cythera is invoked as a utopian place, where things can be radically different, where anything can happen, where you can simply and efficiently forget yourself, unquote. And yeah, my last quote before we get to the films, and kind of to wrap this up, is a quote from Renoir, basically about this idea of habits, where he says, quote, "I think that man is a creature of habit. The artist's duty is to try to break these habits. That's his job. That's why every once in a while, God creates artists. It's a difficult job, because it brings down on your head the wrath of all who don't like change, which is the majority," unquote. And to me, I think that's a good kind of intro to like. I'll bring up this idea on future episodes too, but I think it's really important to Renoir's whole philosophy of like how he sees people, you know, and why he's able to kind of, like you said at the beginning, of he doesn't have good and evil, you know, he just shows people, but it's like it kind of takes this belief in the world, you know, where there's nothing to be changed, you know, because reality as it is good enough, but yeah. At least for the individual, you know, he's still very critical of like societies and like
the norms.
Yes, the norms especially. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna take a quick break and then we're gonna come back and do both films. So stay tuned. And we are back to talk about the films now, Boudu Saved from Drowning and A Day in the Country. We're going to start with Boudu. Came out in 1932, I'm pretty sure. Going to the tradition of never looking this up until we start.
Until we actually start.
Yeah, 1932. But I guess before I go, have what I have on it. Have either of you seen this before?
Yeah.
No.
I have.
Oh, okay. Well, let's start with Blake then, because you hadn't seen it before, but also in a way, it's inspired by.
Also, in a way, I have seen it before.
Well, it's inspired by a lot what you have seen.
Yeah. No, I loved it, honestly, because immediately, whenever we got the drowning scene, I was like, oh, this is kind of like City Lights, but reversed. Like the drunk man is honestly, this character Boudu is the tramp, but kind of even more real than Chaplin's the tramp, because this is kind of how you would assume just a person of like a homeless man like this would be acting, kind of like he doesn't have the class of these people that saved him, essentially.
Yes.
But I also love it because it's just like it's portraying this guy as he literally wanted to die, and so this guy saved him, and he's now alive, and he just like he's like, why'd you save me? Like that's kind of like how he acts this entire movie, and he's like making this guy regret saving him. Like it's really fucking funny in that way. But no, I think that was my favorite part about it, was just it felt like he was doing just a Charlie Chaplin guy, like he was just modeling this guy after Chaplin in general.
Yes.
But making him even more like of a maybe stereotypical like archetype, as you were saying. Like he likes to delve into archetypes, but like the archetypical homeless man almost. But
well, and I think I'm glad you mentioned that archetype, because I thought you were going to mention the other part, which I mentioned about Stroheim specifically, is I think what makes him a little different than Chaplin and some of the clowns is that second part I mentioned, the specific to Stroheim, is the realistic diegetic world.
Yeah.
Where I think that he's actually combining those two, like the kind of trampish social type with this more realistic middle class, world.
Yeah.
You know, but Chaplin definitely still has those themes, but his worlds all feel like
fantasy,
and like everything is part of Chaplin's world in a way.
Yes.
You know? Honestly, this feels like some of the earlier shorts where I think I mentioned this.
No, yeah, where he's a little bit more mean.
Yes, 100%. Where he's like just more cruel and
he has more trampish in general.
You know, he becomes less. He's like less poetic and more just kind of a nuisance in the earlier ones, which I also love so much. I mean, that's why I love this one too. But what is there anything else you liked about the movie or?
No, yeah, I liked how. I mean, I feel like we've done movies kind of like this, where just this one element of just kind of like almost just like this chaotic element is thrown into just like a normal life.
Well, is there anything you're thinking of? Because someone on a podcast I listened to mentioned. Have you seen the Pasolini movie Teorema?
Oh, interesting.
Have you seen
I don't
it?
think I've seen it.
Okay.
I
hadn't thought of it until they mentioned. I was like, okay.
Oh wait, no. Wait.
Especially since
yes.
that's also about a middle class, a bourgeois family, and there's all of a sudden this guy just comes in and starts having sex with people.
Yeah.
Yes, I have seen
you have seen it. Okay,
Yes.
so, yeah, I was like, okay, you both have seen it. I was like, okay, that's interesting.
A bit different, but like
it is definitely different, especially in tone. But like that same kind of premise, like you're saying.
In tone, but I mean also kind of not because Boudu also just kind of wants to have sex with those girls. So.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like, it's yes. Well, there's actually a lot of similarities, but
yes.
But
he doesn't want to have sex with all of them.
well, is there any? You said we talked. I was like, because I couldn't think of any of those.
I'm trying like on the
I feel
spot.
like
I
we
can't
definitely
really
have,
like I like. Well, we talked about this with I know a Ray film.
I mean,
a Ray film, right?
Okay, Europa 51.
Nicholas Ray or Saito Ray?
Saiji Ray.
Europa 51.
No, I don't. I think
that's herself changing from one to the other.
But the way,
I guess
the way people
way
look at her.
yes,
at that movie.
there's some similarities for sure.
Yeah,
but it's the same character that's changing from one to the other. Like instead of just like a person coming in and
I just meant like the way people look at her.
I think Ray has a movie called The Stranger that I'm also thinking about maybe.
Okay, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
I've been saving. That's his last film, I think.
Yeah,
I
bro's
think
been
it
saying
is.
forever, bro. Damn.
I know.
No, but we've definitely done other movies like this. I just can't think of them right
No,
now. Honestly,
it's definitely a common kind of thing. I feel like.
I could probably think of it. I mean,
But yeah, what are you gonna say anything about it or?
About
Because you brought that up and then we were trying to remember.
shit. I forgot what I was gonna say about it.
Well, I mean.
Oh no, yeah, just like throwing a wrench basically in just these everyday lives, almost to see how society would react to something like this,
Yes.
almost.
Yeah.
And it makes you think just about, like, I feel like you mentioned, I think you mentioned this in your intro, but it just makes you think about life in general. Maybe it was whenever we were looking at that the painting, the
Watteau painting.
the Watteau painting, the
Yes.
Cythera.
Yeah, Cythera.
Cythera.
Especially like this one also has that kind of theme. He said at the Watteau pause of a male actively kind of engaged with a female that's kind of passive.
It does,
resistant,
yes.
You know? But yeah.
No, yeah. No, really good fucking movie though.
Okay, yeah.
Definitely liked it a lot.
What about you, Luke?
yeah, I really like this movie too. See, I've seen this before. Anything with Michael Simon. I don't know how you specifically pronounce his name, but
Michel Simon.
yeah, I love, like, you could just put him in front of a camera and he'd
Yes.
be fucking fun to watch. He's
I mean,
insane.
I'm gonna read a quote from Renoir that is basically that. So.
okay, good. Glad great minds think alike. Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that. A broken clock.
Okay. Damn, you got me. But yeah, I really like the ideas of this film about how, like, I guess like it's a great film about like virtue signaling. I like to think of it as like putting it in more modern terminology.
Okay.
It's hilarious.
How kind of like, you know, helping the poor is like, it's like such a dignified thing, but people only see that as like a good thing if the poor person acts in like a societal, like good societal way. Mm-hmm. They're not interested in really looking at the reality of the situation.
Yes, like there's like a fantastical version in their head.
Yeah, of like what a poor person about what a...
It's like, oh, they're gonna thank me for what I did for them and thank them, just like be so appreciative, and then this guy's just like, why'd you say me?
Yeah. It's like how people look at places that are like colonized, like Palestine.
Honestly, yes.
Where it's like, when like, you know, like how Zionists will say, oh, but they like hate gay people over there. I'm like, well, like, you can't really like, they've been under like occupied rule for so long that they're gonna have some like beliefs that are not, you know, progressive or whatever.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that like...
Well, I thought you were gonna go more in the direction of just like maybe even just like how colonized countries treat how the colonizer treats a colonized country in terms of like help, like literal physical aid. Like, oh, you should be thankful for us. Like, look what we're doing for your country. You know.
Yeah.
Without
that's
acknowledging all the
that's
negatives.
kind of similar in my mind.
No, honestly, I didn't think about it, like because I basically I forgot which person said it, but someone I read said the guy's main name is Lestingah or Lestingua, something like.
Lestingua?
I'm gonna say Lestingah, or should I just say the husband? I might just say the husband. But the husband, he's like has a very paternalistic mindset.
Yeah,
I think that's very similar to the kind of colonizer mindset you're talking about.
So, like, I love those ideas, but how he's able to communicate them in like a comedic manner.
Yes.
In this movie, which obviously having Mikhail Simon helps a lot with that, in my opinion.
Yes.
It's also like a sneakily really good looking movie. Like it's not, I don't see it as like very flashy necessarily, but I love the way he frames.
I mean, that beard's flashy.
What?
I said that beard's flashy though.
I mean, yeah.
Well, I kind of agree with you. It's mostly not a flashy movie. There are some great moments I'm going to point out.
But it's like it's still wonderfully like shot
until
and
the
framed.
ending, though. Yes.
Like it's like kind of perfect. Obviously, it's Renoir. So
actually, I have a quote exactly about that too. What you kind of mentioned, how it's like basically that kind of tension of like it's kind of simple, not flashy, but also perfectly framed. Like how can something do that? You know?
No, this is. I mean, I know
that's like basically the beauty of Renoir in a nutshell.
I definitely, because you see, someone that loves Renoir a lot is Wes Anderson. And I could definitely see him loving this movie.
But see, actually, I'm glad you brought him up. That's a good example. I was going to bring up this quote in a second, but I feel like he actually cares much more about this kind of perfectly framing still, even more than Renoir, who feels a little more like lackadaisical, at least on the surface, you know.
But he like loves Renoir though. He like it's like one of his favorite directors. So
actually, I'm going to read a quote right now. I mean, did you have anything else?
No, probably not. But you can.
I mean, if you have anything to say in a second, let me read this quote first because it's actually something you brought up at the beginning as well. Where this is from, there's this amazing kind of behind the. It was a little like TV film that Rohmer made with another French critic named Jean Douchet. I think it's in English. It's called "Looking Back on Boudu Saved from Drowning." It's on the Criterion extras for this film. It's like 30 minutes of just them talking in front of a camera about it. And I started by watching it. I was like, I'm just gonna write down like a few of my favorites, and I ended up like, literally copying like the entire thing, like the transcript of all of it, because it's like literally everything is so good. What they talk about. But let me read this quote first before I get into some of the things I'm gonna say. This is from Jean Douchet, who says, quote, "Throughout his entire life, Renoir was always thinking of theater. He even wrote and staged a play. Theater wasn't secondary for him. To him, every life was a performance, every person an actor. He subscribed to Shakespeare's idea, quote, all the world's a stage, unquote. In Renoir's films, all the world's a stage. So when he films Boudu, he does so in a theatrical manner. Not in the negative sense of conforming to theatrical conventions. On the contrary, he sets a stage on which the characters can evolve. The stage is set, and his characters evolve on it. When creating a scene, he doesn't think about the scenes before and after it. He creates a scene, characters living the present moment in the present setting. We watch them evolve in the situation, and then move on to the next, whether it has any relation to the previous scene or not. This creates a kind of piling up of scenes, like a jigsaw puzzle, with tension, with different moments. Renoir can be very extreme. He can go from comedy to deep emotion to tragedy. This assemblage of slices of life recreate a semblance of real life. Through his mastery of theater, he creates a semblance of real life. This makes him a great filmmaker, one who films real life, with all its accidents and incidents, capturing the passing of time, which is the art of film. He starts out with a strong concept, and through his style and execution, the concept disappears, and all that remains is life, filmed as it happens, as it really is, but always through the use of convention," unquote. I mean, that just has so much in it that I love. This idea of all the world's a stage. Yeah. You know how much I've talked about just time in cinema, and he says capturing the passing of time, which is the art of film itself. And then I think this even kind of relates to what we talked about last week with David Wardwell and when he talks about Hong Kong, and I kind of mentioned what he says, like there's like directors that make cliches sing, and the directors that make cliches like overturn cliches by using them. Yeah. I think that second one is basically what he says at the end, where he says he films life filmed as it happens, as it really is, but always through the use of convention. You know, so he's still using these kind of traditional narrative devices, or these types, you know, that we see in a lot of films, but he's kind of overturning like how, like, basically you think about them, you know. A good example of this is even say compared to Buñuel maybe, who kind of hates, he has a kind of disdain of the bourgeoisie when you're watching his films.
Yeah.
In Renoir's films, like, yes, it feels like he might be kind of making fun of them at times, but he never really hates the husband or the wife or the maid.
No,
you know?
yeah, I agree.
And like Rohmer even makes the point that like Westinghouse is actually a hero. He's the one that actually saves this guy's life. You know, he's still a good guy in that way, like a traditional hero in that sense.
Which was the quote from Rules of the Game where they'd say like everyone has their reasons. Like that's just like a good tagline for his filmography.
Oh, 100%. Yes. But yeah, it was like that's his like philosophy to life, you know, and that's why it feels like he's filming real people in a way, or like complex people, even if they're types.
Yeah.
You know, because usually when we think of types, we think of simplicity. You know, like oh, I get them, like it's something simple. But like his types are complex. You know, in a way, he's kind of like overturning what we might think of someone initially.
Yeah.
You can say that happens in both of these films too. Like in this one, it's like. It's probably the wife, you know, the most, where you're like, basically what happens by the end of the movie, you're like, wait, like, it kind of makes you think of, like, what her character even was. Like, is she, like, Boudu the whole time, or, like, you know, basically her twist, but the main reason I think this is a great movie, outside the concepts that I'm going to talk about in a second, but I think it is the Chaplin of it all. It's like, this is, like, the closest to Chaplin that outside of Chaplin, you know, and it's also a very unique movie because it feels more realistic. You know, it feels more like he's not supposed to be likable. You know, or I think that's where the main difference. Like Chaplin's supposed to be likable. Like most of the clowns, they still want you to like him at the end of the day.
Yes,
I think that's what makes this one a little special. It's like he does not care that he's not likable. Like that's what makes him realistic. You know, it's like almost like actually this was actually happening. You know,
this is what would happen probably.
Yes, like how. I mean, honestly, Jean Douchet says like he's honestly shocked when he watches this movie how they don't even get tired of the fashion they do.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's what's unrealistic about it. It's like they should have got rid. They probably like any normal person would have got rid of him faster. Like that's how annoying he is. But that's what makes this great because there's still like that kind of freedom of the why I love Chaplin so much. This idea of like he's willing to he's kind of a free spirit. You know. But let me. And then, like, one example, before I read this quote from Renoir, he said, like, one of my favorite things as I think about this film is, this is true with Chaplin, with Keaton, is, like, how he uses his body just on screen, like, just to be funny. Like, these are more natural ways, but, like, the way he just, like, uses all the furniture in the house, like, all in the wrong ways, like, as he's talking to people, or just, like, everything, like, it kind of just, like, blows my mind. And, so this is what, to relate to what Luke said about all you needed is put like a camera in front of Michelle Simone.
Yeah.
Renoir says, quote, "You can't follow all actors, and for many actors, if you follow them all the time, it ends up being annoying because they're hollow. Their head is like a bell with no ringer inside." Whereas with Michelle Simone's, it's so filled with thoughts, doubt, even unpleasant thoughts, a lack of confidence often, or too much confidence. It's so full of eternal issues that following them around is fascinating, unquote. And then this is one of my I think, like, you guys say I'm a hater of actors, but this is a quote where I think I agree, where he says, quote, he built, and he's talking about Michelle Simone, where he says, he quote, "He builds a bridge. All great actors are bridge builders, a small bridge between them and the audience. In my opinion, Michelle Simone is one of the greatest bridge builders. The bridge she builds is a boulevard," unquote. And, yeah, no, I think that's just a great, especially for this film. That's why I kind of want to do La Chienne, because he's also in that one. But that one's a lot more depressing than this one is. Like, but it's still highly worth watching. Even some people have said, do you remember how that one ends?
Doesn't like one of them die or something?
But after that.
Not really.
He ends up as a tramp in that one. So some people think that this one is like a sequel to that one.
What may be an interesting episode is Fritz Lang made a version of the same story called Scarlet Street. Of like that same story.
Boudu?
Oh, as La Chienne.
Oh, La Chienne. Okay. Oh, I knew.
They're both based on the same source material. And him and Fritz Lang made one of each. So
is that one good?
people like it a lot. I haven't seen it. yet, but
Okay. Okay, before I get to what Bazin said, because Bazin, even though he has the Renoir book on with Bazin's writings is really good. Because first of all, a lot of these reviews are pretty short too, which is also nice.
damn, you got TikTok brain, bro.
Okay. But he packs a lot into him.
Yeah.
But first, before I mention what Bazin says, let me read a quote Rohmer had, where he says, quote, and he's talking about, this is how he starts that video I talked about, where he says, quote, "Let's talk about everything at once, because I feel everything is connected. You can't discuss Renoir's framing without referring to the acting or the plot. Thousands of sometimes conflicting ideas come to mind. Renoir's genius, which we will try to define, is that he accepts contradictions. You can find everything in a Renoir film, especially this one. You could even say this film has parts that are cliché, even things that are quite stupid. That's the great thing about Renoir. He's not afraid of stupidity or cliches," unquote. What Bazin says, you could say he doesn't say it exactly the same way Rohmer does, but basically, in my head, and I'm going to talk about this in future episodes, is this idea of basically kind of contradiction in Renoir, where he's willing, like this Janus face thing I talked about earlier. This idea of he's willing to show multiple things, even two contradictory things. Bazin calls this, he says, at least the English translation is, an aesthetic of discrepancy, where he basically is willing to direct contradictory contradictory elements at the same time. And this is what Bazin even calls what editing is this ability to merge contradictory elements into a coherent style. This is what I was saying. This is one of my favorite quotes, where this, I think you kind of mentioned this, where it's like he's not flashy. Yeah. That's kind of maybe a nice way to say it. Someone that doesn't like Renoir's movie might watch it and say he's kind of sloppy, Yeah. Maybe kind of like just like boring. Loose, like especially if on the surface you're just watching, like if you watch like a Ford movie or something. Yeah. And you compare it to this, it's like he'll seem little less more, not as like strict, not as like. He'll seem like on the surface he doesn't care a lot about the framing, but Bazin calls this basically Renoir's willing to have mistakes in his films. He's actually okay with like not perfection, even dramatically, especially. He's willing to skip things dramatically for the plot, or just like stuff will happen off screen. Yeah. And let me read this quote, where he says, quote, "Renoir is one of the masters of photographic realism. A fraction of these quote-unquote mistakes would condemn any other director, but they are an integral part of the style of Jean Renoir, often the best part of it. For Renoir, what is important is not the dramatic value of a scene. Drama, action, offer him only pretext for the essential, and the essential is everywhere in what is visible, everywhere in the very substance of cinema. Of course, drama is necessary. That is what we go to the movies to see. But the story can get along easily by itself. It is sufficient to sketch just enough of it so that the audience has the satisfaction of understanding. That done, the real film remains to be made. Characters, objects, light, all must be arranged in the story like colors in a drawing, without being directly subordinated to it. At times, the very interest of the finished product may be in the fact that the colors do not fit neatly with the contours of the drawing. The effect Renoir creates out of this overlapping seems all the more subtle, because he knows how to stay within the lines beautifully when he wants to." Unquote. And like to me, that's like, that's another example of like why I picked Renoir in the first place. It's like this idea of cinema is like what I deeply agree with. Yeah. That idea of the essential is everywhere in what is visible, everywhere in the very substance of the cinema. Even the idea of where he says drama, action are a pretext for the essential. Bresson has a quote that I've mentioned before, where he is talking about pickpocket, and then he just says, it's something that always sticks with me. He says, the subject is a pretext, where basically the subject is just an excuse to do what you really want to do in a film. And that's basically what Bazin is saying here. It's the drama is just the excuse for the real reason you're making the film. And let me read because I'm saying this idea of Renoir's willing to have mistakes in his films. Renoir has this great quote where He says, quote, "You see, the great mistake of today's film industry is a quest for perfection. Oftentimes I hear, producers are abominable people. They think money is all important, and that's all about commercial success. Not true. I say that producers are the most selfless people in the world. They are people that truly love cinema. What I blame them for is trying to make good movies. I find that ridiculous. It's not about making good movies. It's about bringing a tad of humanity. It's about opening a small door on some aspects, on what we think we've learned about the human mind, or a situation leading to characters. It's about understanding human nature, that's all. What happens is that these flawless products end up being a bore. Audiences tire of cinema because of too much perfection." Unquote. I mean, obviously I love that. Especially the idea of, like, it's not about making good movies. You know, this idea of trying so hard to, like, make something artistic. Like, Renoir's trying to avoid that at all costs, you know?
Yeah.
Basically this aesthetic discrepancy, another way to describe it, is Bazin puts it as the discrepancy between dramatic content and visual presentation of what you're actually seeing, you know? And one example he gives, actually, I'll save it when we get to it in the film, but he gives a great example of it in this film too. But I want to mention a few things before we get into the actual film about what Rohmer and Douchet say, Jean Douchet. To go on with this kind of contradiction element of, like, showing multiple things, Rohmer says, "I find Renoir's films contain both the darkest pessimism, the harshest view of humanity, as well as the most comforting view. These are juxtaposed but never reconciled." Unquote. And then Douchet adds on, "That's true, but in other Renoir films, this darkness is more present, and it can be very dark indeed. This film is very sunny and warm. The feeling of summertime is very present. This physical well-being is communicated to the viewer. Viewers are happy, and the film allows them to experience what they never experience in real reality. Total freedom from social constraints." Unquote. I think that's also related to Next Week too, where, especially The Rules of the Game is a much darker film, you know, than this one. Also, I kind of just said that Balachian, that's also a very much darker film. That's probably why I picked this one over it. I won't read much into it, but Jean Douchet in the video, he points out something that's very similar. It's kind of related to this classic tradition I talked about at the beginning of have you guys heard about the Roman myth of Apollo and Dionysius?
Yeah, certainly.
Do you know,
yes.
basically, like, the kind of duality between the two.
No.
Where basically he says this film is basically a film about Apollo and Dionysius, where he says, quote, "The world of Apollo is one of order, the solar world, an orderly world. Dionysius' world is one of nature, lust for life, natural impulses. On one hand, the forces of order, in the Dionysian world of freedom, of enjoying life, which obviously is chaotic. It's the conflict between an orderly middle-class world and a chaotic world. What's interesting about Renoir is he doesn't take sides. In fact, both are necessary. Chaos must visit the orderly world and turn everything upside down. The orderly world is enriched by this temporary chaos, but chaos must then return to its own world. The worlds come together and then separate again. That's why I believe it's not a simple thing. It's a lust for life and a need for freedom, a deep connection to life through everyday things, including sensuality and sexuality, and everything else, but all very vital and intertwined. All this creates a very rich film. Nothing is fixed." And basically, you know, this, like you mentioned, the chaotic element, you know, this chaos, like, you could say this is the Dionysian chaos he's talking about, versus, like, the orderly world of the middle class that he comes and ruins. This is another thing I mentioned. I said earlier when you mentioned Wes Anderson, and where I kind of disagree, because I think, like, you can tell, like, when you watch a Wes Anderson film, he wants you to think about the framing. You know, like, that's what people point out. It's like one of the first things, like, about his style. You know, it's just kind of flat. Everything is perfectly framed. Yes, but everything is like. Jean Douchet puts it where he says the style where, quote, "framing is everything," unquote. And he says Renoir is kind of the opposite of that style. And I think that's where, and I'm going to read this quote in a second, but that's where I feel like especially Rivette reminds me the most of, where it's like, it never feels like he cares about a certain, like he does, it's not like where every frame is everything, but in a way he ends up becoming a great at framing anyway. And that's what I'm going to read this quote in a second. Where he says, quote, Renoir uses wide shots to allow his characters to evolve within the frame. I'm not saying he's not capable of using very meticulous framing, but he embodies the opposite of a certain style, where framing is everything, and the actors all have to hit their marks while they act and say their lines. They have to concentrate on getting to the chalk mark on the floor. Obviously, Renoir wouldn't be able to achieve this wonderful naturalness if he didn't give his actors freedom to evolve. We come back to the theater yet again. As in theater, the actors are given a space in which to act and where they're able to do their utmost. And yet, what astounds me in this film, this has often been said about him, in spite of this, he's also a master of framing, unquote. And, like, I feel like, Rivette also had this very kind of, like, the actor's freedom is everything. We're going to film in these wide shots, long takes, you're the ones that say cut. And the camera's just going to follow what you do. And yet, like, we watch so many Rivette films, they still film, like, in a way, even though he's following those kind of beliefs, he still feels like he's a great framing, Yeah. Same thing we get with Renoir, where, like, I'm going to talk about more in a future episode. Maybe another way to kind of dispel the belief that I hate actors, too, because Renoir loves actors. He's in the tradition of, like, actors are everything, like, everything else is...
It's like him, like, he's like Rivette in that way.
Yes. Where, like, the actors loved working with him, too, because of how much respect he has for them.
Yeah.
Just kind of shoot down to that myth at once that I hate those kind of directors.
I mean, you've definitely said it. You're just like...
Well, it's when I'm talking about Bresson, you guys think it's just me, like...
But
and I kind of agree with
the
him
way you talk
mostly.
about it. It's like, yeah, I fucking hate him. Like,
no, it's more like
he
when they
said
get the credit
that,
for everything.
but he also has, like, in the John Woo series, he applauded John Woo for his way he shot actors, especially Chow Yun-fat.
Yeah.
But then he spins it. It's like, but that's why they're models.
I will say, like, it takes, like, a certain approach with the director like this, because like, a lot of times a film will be shot normally, but they'll be given credit, like, the way Michelle Simon carries, like, Boudu or something, where it's like they're not really doing that much in the film. Like, there's too many cuts, like, you're barely even seeing them in moving, and yeah, it's like they're getting so much credit for the film. But yeah, to keep going, I also had just a couple little things from this different guy named Raymond Durgnat. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. No. I forgot his... yeah, it's Durgnat or Durgat or something like that. He's a pretty famous film critic. He wrote a pretty popular book on Renoir that I'm taking from. He calls Boudu... I thought this was funny because I was bringing up Buddhism earlier. He calls it Buddhism.
Oh my god.
What he calls is a state of being both witless and divine at the same time. And I thought that was interesting. And another thing he points out is, like, we kind of talked about this already, is, like, the husband has, like in his middle class values. He calls him a literary liberal. And I thought this was funny. He points out how if this guy had gone to go see Boudu, he would have taken Boudu's side and laughed at the Lesnigov with the rest of us. So, like, I thought that was kind of a funny critique too, of this kind of guy.
Is he witless or just not conforming though? Because I feel like he's not smart.
He does some dumb things though.
Yeah. I mean, the shoe polish stuff, yeah, especially.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. But there is a kind of, like, hiddenness with it. Like, you can't tell, really.
yeah, because, like, I also think, like, he spits in Balzac's philosophy of marriage.
Oh,
like, that's a hilarious joke.
Yes.
But it's also, like, that's...
Yes.
Like, is that witless, or is that just him not conforming or something to society's norms, almost? But...
Just with everything, he's willing to do that.
Yes.
Such extreme. I do think it's kind of funny, and, like, even this is a good example of, like, how even those kind of middle class values age so fast in a way. It's like they're getting so mad at him for not polishing his shoes before he leaves and stuff. But, like, now no one polishes their shoes, so it's like it's kind of a funny thing just to watch in the past. Like, oh, people cared about that so much. But then we probably have our own things that we do that we just think is normal, like, but it's really a certain kind of middle class value that we just value so much. But yeah, he never talks about this kind of Cytherean chronotype, but in a way, he kind of confirms it in a way by basically talking about this is Raymond Durgnat I'm talking about is let me just read what he says about Boudu. He says, quote, Boudu responds to the details of the here and now as the impressionist to immediacy of hue. His mind is pulled this way and that, irresponsibly, not as in accrued association, associationism, but by the most proximate stimuli. He's pulled by odd pulsations whose effects none can see, by perhaps an instinct of freedom whose mischievous function is to disrupt the consistencies of the other instincts, a kind of instinctual pataphysics. Basically, this idea of like he's pulled by something even he can't see, and this kind of instinct of like freedom that's like trying to disrupt this, world of order, as Jean Douchet put it. And then there's one other filmmaker that he mentions as a cineast of freedom, of life as art, and art as life. Who do you think he's talking about? And it's not someone I mentioned yet, I don't think.
Who said this?
Raymond Durgnat. And then he's going to point out a character that's kind of similar to Boudu, but also different.
Is it like an old director?
It's newer than Renoir, at least.
Newer than Renoir, at least. Oh.
It's not that hard to guess, honestly.
Give us like a hint or something. Like,
it's related
nationality?
French.
French director. Art.
Cineast of freedom, of life as art and art as life.
Godard?
Yeah, Godard.
Okay, yeah.
Because he says, quote, it's difficult also not to look forward to Godard, another cineast of freedom, apathy and whim, of life as art and art as life. But Boudu, lacking all idealism, is at ease in a world that anguishes Pierrot. I thought that was interesting, comparing Pierrot and Boudu. Yeah. But like but Pierrot is still not as kind of free in what he is compared to Boudu, as this. Yeah. In this freedom as Boudu is. But I think that's kind of the main reason, this idea of freedom, not even the way, not in the type of filmmaking that Renoir does, but also in the way Simone acts in the film, and just like what the movie's about. All this comes together. This idea of like freedom and even breaking convention. But yeah, I think we can go ahead and at least go through it. I've already mentioned a few of the scenes, so.
It is a
kind
pretty short movie too.
Also a short movie.
Yeah.
We do get some music in the credits, but I don't know if you realize that's basically the only time in the film we get non-diegetic music.
He does love diegetic.
Oh yes,
music,
especially in this film.
Like even in Rules of the Game, when that mansion sequence pops off, if I'm not mistaken, the music plays continuously throughout it. I might be misremembering that, but that music starts when it's just like a band playing in the one room.
Mm.
And also, of course, like French Can, like
yes.
There's like obviously.
But this one has a lot. Like it's kind of low key and subtle. Like
yeah.
But it's even just like from people singing,
Yeah.
Which I always love. But yeah, I'm gonna go through some of the plots kind of quickly. Is we get this initial opening scene. Honestly, kind of this Watteau moment of this this kind of husband character already chasing the maid, who's kind of like resisting initially. Yeah. He even calls her my little nymph, just to reference this kind of classic tradition that Renoir loves so much. But then she ends up leaving, and this is where we cut to a great shot of just boats on the water. We don't know. That's kind of foreshadowing to the ending, but yeah, we see Boudu. We see him singing while he's eating. Also, kind of
with his dog.
With his dog. Okay, do you think? Because Raymond Durgnat says that he commits suicide. He tries to commit suicide because his dog runs away.
That's what I thought whenever I was watching the movie.
That's interesting. I never thought that.
Oh, really?
I've always thought of it as more kind of a random thing that happens.
Like, you don't know if it's like...
if it's exactly because of that.
Yeah, it could literally just be anything. He could have just felt like jumping in the water.
But it's interesting people have different, like either you directly related to that or not.
Yeah, what if he just wanted to take a bath?
Because Bazin says it's kind of just more random. But I can definitely see if it's more... Because he does
like this is his 13th reason, man. Like,
but yeah, then he does go search for the dog, and he finds as he's going to search for the dog. This is kind of a great moment. I'll probably talk in future episodes. Just Renoir framing in depth, where we see how the cops treat him. Where
not even that.
He's searching for his dog.
I think it's even one of the best parts of this is his approach to the cop himself, because he looks at the cop for a second, goes do I want to ask him? Basically, that's at least what his body language is giving me. He's just standing there but it's no one else is talking to him because he's homeless, so he has to.
And honestly, just the way the cop, because this reminds me, I have a few moments in my notes where it kind of just reminds me of a silent gag or something. And this is even the way this is set up. The camera is framed just on the environment first, and then a cop just walks in from the frame on the left. How they always do in the silent movies.
Yes.
The cop just walks in all of a sudden while the camera's still. And it's it just framed perfectly how the cop treats him initially, and then tells him, "No, I'll just get out of here." And then this old lady, this rich old lady, also lost her dog, and the way the cop treats her right after about her missing dog compared to his. It's all a single shot with the foreground and background what's going on. We see Boudu just slowly walking away as he's talking
through the this is an insane. This is an insane location too.
Yes.
Just this.
It
all
looks
these
a real
trees.
park, I'm pretty sure.
The trees look insane. It looks like they're in the middle of the woods though. It doesn't even look like a park.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But then this is my favorite gag. These are honestly some of my favorite moments. Is this beginning and the ending. But this is maybe my favorite gag of the movie is where that kid comes and gives him a $5 tip, or I don't know why I said $5, but just gives him a tip.
Just give it,
to buy money for food. To give him money for food, and you're like, oh, that's such a nice thing, And then Boudu immediately gets up and helps this rich guy's getting out of his car, and he opens the door for him. And the guy's looking for money to tip him, and then Boudu just gives him the money he just got given from the kid. And then so he basically flips it.
And the guy's like, "Are you making fun of me?"
And the way Raymond Durgnat says it is, he says, quote, "It's a let them eat cake moment turned upside down. The beggar being free is the real aristocrat." So that was a great. In another way, still foreshadowing the end of the film, because he ends up giving all that money he wins from the lottery, just giving it away. Basically as running away.
Yeah.
Which I always love to. But yeah, we cut back to the library where the husband is working. We see him give away a Voltaire book, which is kind of supposed to signify he's Voltaire was a very liberal humanist at the time, or I think he was older, but he's in that tradition of French liberalism. And then we cut to the next basically major scene of the movie is when the husband sees Boudu with the telescope as he spots him out. But honestly, one of my favorite little moments in this film is even before this scene, the way this film starts, and the way he's so good at making even all the characters feel like they have their own lives, their own little lives, is he doesn't start the scene with just the narrative action. The scene starts with the maid just singing to herself as she's trying to use the telescope just for her own, just having fun with it herself.
Yes.
It's nothing to do with the narrative or the plot. And then the husband comes in and he takes the telescope, and that's when the plot starts. But it has nothing that never comes back.
Is this where Ray got the idea for the opera glasses and Charlotte?
Maybe. I don't remember who she sees though.
She just looks at a lot of different people. That's kind of what they're doing with this also, I think.
Especially looking through things. But that's when he says, "I've never seen such a perfect tramp."
Yeah.
Which is funny. To me, in a way, that's Renoir talking about Simone too. Just him as an actor, That's how I read it. And this is but yeah, this is when he's watching, and then all of a sudden Boudu's we're watching with him in this long shot. Boudu walks to the bridge and just jumps off all of a sudden, just suddenly. And but yeah, we go and we watch these wide shots of Boudu getting saved out of the water, and
the husband literally runs to save this fat old man.
Yes. And this is the scene I was going to talk about. This scene of the crowd watching this kind of suicide rescue, and like how they're treating him after he's saved out of the water outside. Bazin points this out as one of the examples of his Renoir's aesthetic of his discrepancy, because he says like you can obviously tell in the background crowd they're there to watch a movie being filmed.
Yeah.
Like the way they're treating it, they're all excited, everyone's happy, and it's almost like, and he says Renoir, it's almost like Renoir's telling them, like he's basically hiding that emotion.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't want them to have the kind of scared emotion of a suicide. You know, he kind of likes this kind of like discrepancy of the narrative action that's someone that almost just died versus like the crowd that thinks they're just like watching a movie being filmed. You know, and they're just having some kind of there's like some happiness to it. He likes that contradiction in the.
Well, it also gives it a more real feel.
Exactly.
Because this is
kind
what
of
people.
Dramatic, all the crowd is.
This is what people are actually thinking whenever they watch something like this.
Actually, I think someone in the crowd even says like, "I've seen so many, I don't even bother anymore."
Yeah.
So that casualness.
Yeah.
Or normally the narrative would be like, "Oh, we're supposed to be freaking out," you know. But he's okay to have both at the same time. We see the wife say something like, now I realize a lot of this is kind of foreshadowing for how like the flip he's going to do at the end of the film, because like the first thing the wife says is, "You're not bringing that thing into my house," which the way she ends up treating him at the end is like kind of the exact opposite, you know. They like give him this like weird CPR. I don't know. This must have been 1930s CPR, which doesn't seem safe at all. They're like fucking slapping him and
slap the life back into you, man.
I mean,
there's like a really fun. This is like another silent film moment where like
he does get saved at the end of the day, so maybe they were.
They do
cooking.
save him.
Maybe they were cooking.
But the husband tells the wife as she's standing over Boudu, and the husband's like, "The tongue, take his tongue out." No, he like take the tongue out, and she sticks her own tongue out instead of Boudu's.
Yeah.
But yeah, they end up saving Boudu, like we say, and yeah, the husband ends up. I mean, long story short, the husband ends up agreeing to help Boudu. You know, he wants to be a good guy.
He's basically responsible for him. He feels like also because he saved his life. So,
and as we're gonna see, I think he's expecting the kind of gratefulness you're talking about. You talked about at the beginning, you know, of like, I'm doing such a good deed. Like, this is not. I'm like helping outside of my class. You know, you're supposed to be grateful for this.
Yeah.
Like,
I also like how fast the other two guys that helped out just leave after he wakes up. They're like, okay, we're not gonna help this guy
right
anymore.
After.
Like.
Oh no, because the husband originally says, "Oh, well, I'll pitch in to help."
Yeah.
About the other guy.
Like, nope.
Immediately, they're both like, "Oh, my wife's wondering where I am right now." Like,
and the other guy's basically just like, "Oh, I'll get you a medal for this. Don't worry."
But yeah, so yeah, now we get some kind of just hijinks of Boudu living in the house for this is basically the middle third of the movie. The best part I have in my notes, because this is the initial scene where he gives them new clothes, they give him new food, and the best thing I have in my the thing I have in my notes is about all these scenes is I love how immediately he rejects their kindness. Okay, like he's not even initially is he willing to be like, "Oh, thank you for everything."
No,
like, you know, this kind of politeness that they're expecting right away.
He's like usually I think the guy even says like usually if someone saves someone else they're more appreciative or thankful. He's like, "What do I have to thank you for?" It's such a funny line, man. I'm just like,
no. Yes, no, that is so funny. No, because he's like complaining, like they're like, "Oh, we'll get you soup and eggs." And he's like, "I don't like soup and eggs." Like that's just so funny. Like no one would do that. Like a normal.
Well, they give him like bread and butter. And he's like, "Well, is this lard?" And then they're like, "No, it's butter. It's way better than lard." He's like, "Nothing's better than lard." I'm just like,
yeah, because like you think like he'd be grateful to get soup and eggs. He's like, "I just want sardines and bread." No, I just love it. Like he rejects all the clothes they give him initially and stuff. He even tells the wife to leave the room.
Yeah,
like, get out of here. Like, just like all these things he's doing, it's like exact opposite what you're supposed to do. Like I just have this one part where I have in my notes where he's like, it's like a wide shot of the table and the chairs in the foreground, and he's like just walking around like all kind of like trampish like, and there's a great moment where he like stumbles like he's gonna sit in the chair like you think he's obviously gonna do. And he just turns around and sits on the table right next to it, like right on top of the table. It's just like such a good, like that had to be improvised, but it's like, just like Renoir says, Simone like just kind of improvising.
Like, what if an alien came over for dinner and he didn't know what a table.
Yeah,
or a
basically
chair
social
was.
conventions,
Yeah.
or as Douchet put it, the freedom of social constraints. You know, like he just feels like totally free. Like he's just gonna do exactly what he wants his body to do. You know, but there's even, and that's also when he like instead of sitting in the chair, he ends up laying on the table while he's talking to her, and she's like another kind of foreshadowing where she's like, "What would you do if you won 100,000 francs?" And he can't even imagine the concept because all he says is, I think it's kind of a good poetic moment too, where he says, "I would buy a bike," and then he's like, "But I never learned how to ride a bike," and they just start cracking up laughing. But I think it's like a great moment. It's like he wouldn't even know what to do with the money, you know, like what would he even spend it on, you know? But yeah, as we're to learn, he does end up getting the money later. We get a good little shot of another thing about comment about these movies. They both have cats in them.
Hey.
This one has a quick shot of a cat. As we see this kind of flute player, we see him multiple. He kind of starts scenes multiple times. This kind of flute player that lives nearby through the window.
Yeah.
But yeah, then this is where we get the kind of Douchet's going to realize he can't have Boudu here because it's not. Even though Boudu is actually terrible during the day, do you guys remember what actually?
The bed.
Yes,
that's amazing.
That's what really.
No, it's amazing.
Caused him to not want Boudu anymore.
Because the funny thing is, like, that morning or whatever, he basically says something to the maid like, "Oh, expectations are what makes the day worth living," or something like that, because they're expecting to have sex.
That's true.
and then this happens. It's so
I didn't
funny.
even realize. I remember that quote at the beginning, but that's exactly why, because he's lost that expectation.
Yeah, it's so funny, dude. Like literally the biggest cock block, dude. Like
yes. And Douchet puts this as an example of how, although Simone, like, although the husband actually has respect for Simone, like, you can tell in a way he wants to be like this. He wants to have this kind of freedom. You know, he calls it the perfect triumph. He says this is proof that he's a prisoner of his middle class values, because, like, why is he embarrassed to do this in front of Boudu? That's what his whole concept idea is like. Except for, you know, he's worried that anyone will see him outside of his middle class values. So, even Boudu, you know.
I just like how Boudu calls him out immediately for what he's going to do. He's like, "Oh, are you going to go see the girl downstairs?"
He's not worried about it, you know. Like,
no, yeah.
I don't think Boudu would even care.
No, yeah. Like, it's a
That's
very nonchalant thing he's just saying. Like,
yeah, like I don't think Boudu would care, but that's what makes him like a prisoner of his own values, you know. And honestly, this is another great example of his acting, of like the way because initially the reason why he goes to this hallway is because he doesn't like the bed. He thinks the bed is too uncomfortable. He's like, I just want to sleep on the floor. And he's like, he chooses the most uncomfortable position in the hallway with his like feet up in
on the
air.
stairs.
It's like, what? This is what you want rather than the bed? Like, this is insane.
The bed's too hot, Dany, and soft.
Then we get maybe the most kind of showy shot in a really beautiful way of the shot in depth that we see the family eating in the distance at the dinner table. And the camera dollies all the way to the window. And then we watch the maid in the same shot go all the way up to the window to like call out to someone else outside a different window. And then it cuts back to her. Basically all this happens in depth. And Douchet, I want to read this part because I think this is true for all Renoir's films, especially next week, with the rules of the game. Where he says, quote, and he points out this scene as a terrific moment of using depth of field where he says, quote, "Obviously a frame has width, but it also has depth as well. In this film, and increasingly Renoir's films over the next decade, he experimented with simultaneous action. He never abandons a character. Each character continues its life on screen and off. Whether in foreground or not, part of the main action or not, all the characters must play their roles constantly. You see characters acting in the background and in the foreground." And then this is, Renoir says something similar where he says, quote, "I have a quirk when I shoot films. It's trying to make the audience think about the main characters I show on screen are not alone in life. That there are also other people who love, who suffer, who get drunk, and that have joys and sorrows. I hate the idea of the main characters being isolated," unquote. And to me, that's why I think like the maid is such a good example, because she's the one that gets so many of these like small moments that are just like not part of the narrative, but like just Renoir kind of just like wanting to show it, you know. Yeah, basically there's no kind of meaning outside of that. Just Renoir finds it beautiful, you know, just a little moment like that. But yeah, then we get to there's some more scenes of like Boudu causing chaos. One of my favorite moments is like this joke of I didn't even know this was a thing, but apparently like he spills the wine just like for no reason.
Yeah.
And she goes to get salt to take out the wine. And then
he pours more wine over
yeah,
it.
he pours some more. She's like, why'd you do that? He's like to draw out the salt.
To draw out the salt. It's so funny.
It's like that's some good logic right there. Yeah, this is like where they're kind of still getting annoyed by him. There's a great moment of like I noticed like where he's kind of talking to the maid when they're both alone, and just for some reason he goes to sit, and the way he sits is in between the door frames.
It's so good.
Just in the air, sitting in between the door frame. Like it's kind of amazing. And then this is also the scene where you think he should be grateful. They're like, this is where the maid's like, you should be grateful. Where she says, nice clothes, good food, and a warm bed. Who do you owe all this to? And she thinks she's gonna say she wants
He's like, God.
And he's like, yeah, the good Lord. And then she's like, where would you be if Monsieur hadn't saved you though? And he says, in heaven.
In heaven.
Which is just amazing answer too. Because it also reminds me of there's like a Criterion extra of Michel Simon and Renoir basically talking about this film like years later, basically their career too. And Renoir says, quote, I think Boudu wasn't innocent. And then Simone says, like Adam before the fall. And then Renoir says, I think so too, he's pure innocence. And Simone says, he's a man in God's image, no more, no less. And I think that's very similar to what the idea of this kind of moment is, where he says like, I would be in heaven, you know, like he still sees himself as it's on the same level as them, you know, he doesn't see himself as someone who's like lacking, like they think he should, you know, especially in this way, like in God's image. And then he ends up, do you guys remember why he ends up wanting to get a haircut?
Because he wants a kiss, man.
Yes, exactly. You know, this is where desires led him. Yeah.
I just like how she's like, have you ever kissed anyone? He's like, yeah, my dog.
Yeah.
I think she says, is that why he left you? I was like, Jesus.
No, she's got some funny ones.
She does.
But yeah, then we he goes to get his haircut.
The shoe shine bit happens first, though.
Yes.
Fucking insane.
Oh yeah, all the polish he spills and everything.
Oh my
god. Because like you gotta polish your shoes first.
This is one of the main ones I focus on whenever I'm like, oh, this is just like Chaplin, basically.
Like this is like a silent film guy.
Yeah, just like a silent film guy. Like he's just wandering around messing with shit, basically.
Especially for how long some of it lasts. Like, yes. He just doesn't stop.
I mean, the kitchen shit lasts for a while, and then
yeah.
Like whenever you're just in the kitchen messing with all the water and shit.
Yes. There's also a shot like before he leaves, he just like does a random handstand on the wall for like no reason. Like there's just like, these little moments like I just love like that he does throughout the film. But yeah, that's when like after he's gone, the wife and the husband agree to get rid of him. They say he's beyond hope.
The husband, like his line reading of like opening up that Balzac or the philosophy of marriage and seeing that and him just going, he spat on Balzac. Yeah, he must go immediately.
He spat on Balzac.
This guy.
It sounds like this.
Hey, it's true. Balzac.
Because the husband even says, I think this goes to the kind of paternalistic colonial mindset I was talking about, where the husband says, even though he disgusts me, I did save his life, unquote. Basically, this kind of like better than attitude, you know, of like, oh, see, I'm helping you by, you know, this kind of system where like they won't acknowledge the system, they'll just think it's themselves, but it's like, they'll think it's like they're disgusting people, they'll like, you know, like. They're lesser than people, but they still like want them to be grateful.
Well, I think he also says in this, you should never save. Like this is why you don't save someone that's not in your same class, basically.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
I think that's in this scene
that's like
too.
their mistake. You know, you gotta stick to your class. See, that's the problem. That's the cool part about this wife. We still, especially if you've seen it for the first time, you still think the wife still just hates this guy. You know, in a way, like. After you know the ending, it makes you rethink, like, is she just hiding for the husband, like, or she's hiding some desire from herself, you know?
From herself, probably.
And obviously for the husband, too.
Well, yeah.
because this is like maybe a kind of a key non-narrative moment. Because like I said, she's kind of so far she's been the shrill, nagging wife that really doesn't like this guy, and we haven't really gotten any kind of humanistic moments from her. But right before we get this reveal, there's like this kind of random moment where she just is sitting on the bed smiling because she hears the music box playing outside. She goes to the window and just starts smiling, like something that would happen to a hero in a film, where they just hear some music in their past and or something, and they smile at the window, and then she just goes and sits down and smiles, and that's it, And it's almost like he's teasing us for like she's about to become different to us, to the audience, because like the next scene is where the wife and Boudu meet, and they have their kind of romantic moment.
I will say it's very funny that the husband and wife are saying like they're agreeing to kick him out. Because whenever I was watching, I was like, oh, okay, so the husband's going to do what a husband usually does, and he's going to kick this guy out whenever he comes back. And then Boudu comes back all clean-shaven, and the husband goes like, my wife has something to tell you.
Yeah. I do think they talk about her saying, like, I'll do it.
Okay. I must not.
Like, she's actually hiding something.
Okay. Because I thought that was really funny.
I'm pretty sure that's true. But either way, your kind of theme still applies. Because he doesn't want to do it. Like
no, yeah.
But yeah, then we get the meeting. Were you surprised by this? Like, because this is your first time watching it, right?
The sex scene?
Yeah, like that she was kind of attracted to him. Because the reason I bring this up is because I think A Day in the Country has a very similar moment at the end of that film.
No, it definitely has a
rejecting
similar
this guy
moment.
this whole time,
yeah.
and all of a sudden, like, she hasn't. She's kind of just been hiding. She's been fighting that middle class values we're talking about. Where that won't allow this to happen.
I would say I think Day in the Country is more romantically filmed.
Yes. 100%. Yes.
Because both of these definitely have that moment of like they're just releasing themselves to the moment almost. Like they're just like accepting the moment almost.
Exactly.
I wouldn't say I expected it, obviously, but I understand it. Even thinking about it.
But I think the expecting is part of it because that's the kind of types I was talking about. That he plays on and then he reverses.
Because even looking back on it, this is maybe it's a trope now. Maybe it wasn't back in the day, but I feel like it is kind of like a trope where this uptight wife basically falls for the dirtier, slobbier guy essentially, because it's just an element of her life that she doesn't have. So
no, slobbier guy is really just
what did you say?
Slobbier.
Slobbier.
He's a slob in this movie. Slovenly.
Slobbier is just really funny word. It's a really funny word. That's all I was giving that.
But it is funny. This is another kind of joke that happens. It's kind of a mean joke too. Is right after this guy has sex with his wife, the scene after the husband wins an award.
He gets the medal.
He gets a medal. It's such a funny joke. It's literally right after he's like, "Oh, you got a medal." And Boudu's all excited to drink about it.
It's like the cuck award.
Basically, yeah. No, that's what Jean Douchet says. He says in French comedy, this is the typical cuckold scene.
Yeah.
But Renoir, he does it so great the way he does it.
Boudu really just in here just stealing both his women, damn.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's why the Tiarama thing kind of makes sense.
It does, yeah.
No, then this is where Boudu gets the confidence that he could work in a bookstore. Because he tells the guy's like, I'm looking for the first edition of the Flowers of Evil, and he's like, this is a flower. This is a flower shop. And then he brags to the maid after. He's like, oh, you should have seen me with him. At this rate, I might even become a bookseller myself.
So good.
And then after, this is to me maybe the best reaction I've ever seen to someone winning the lottery. Is because he can't even read.
Yeah, he's like, what numbers?
What number do I have? And he's like, what are the winning numbers? And he's like, the guy says it. And he's like, what are my numbers? And he's like, are these your ticket? This is your ticket? And he's like, yes. And he's like, so you just won 100,000 francs? And his initial reaction is like, what's it to you then, buddy? He's not even happy about it. He's just mad at the guy for saying it. And it doesn't even show him celebrate that much. No. The reason he's excited about it is because he thinks the maid will finally marry him now. Which ends up happening, Which is also another kind of criticism of, basically once you get money, That's all it takes. You know,
Yeah.
the guy saved the same guy. But now he has money. All of a sudden, he's like a catch. You know, versus this whole time they've been waiting to kick him out. Like that's what the whole plan is. And I just love how fast it happens. It's like he tells everyone he's won the lottery.
Well, the wife wants him before she knows, though. So she still wants him.
That's actually true. The way the scene starts is the wife is now coming out to him. He's rejecting her now because he wants to marry the maid because he has money. She pushes him into this door where now the husband and the maid are together, and that's how like basically it's like such a simple moment of like saying I don't care about the plot, but still having the plot thing happen of now both affairs are revealed, blah blah blah. But he's like I don't care about that, you know. It's like it happens, but it kind of like no one ever talks about it that seriously.
Yeah.
Because they're like, now we can actually. The husband says, nonetheless, modern morality demands the situation be right. And he's like, that's why it makes sense for the husband to go back to the wife, and now Boudu, that he has money, he can start a middle class family with the maid. And we get this hard cut to
their marriage.
their marriage on just an amazing hard cut to their marriage on the rowboat. And then one of my favorite shots of all time, and definitely one of my favorite Renoir shots, is this opening shot of the I don't know if you guys noticed the Blue Danube is playing by the Riverside Orchestra, and the camera just dollies out from the orchestra onto the water in a single shot, and then the same single shot it shows the boat, their marriage boat, like slowly gliding by as the music is playing. It's just so good, dude. I could just watch that shot all day, especially with the way this movie's gonna end. Because like we think, now we've got our happy ending, you know, they're married. But like, why is he spending so long in this water? You know, like we haven't been in the water this whole time. And it's almost like Boudu can't resist. You know, he sees the road. Like, see, this is another Chaplin kind of feeling. You know, because how City Lights ends with the rose.
Yeah.
You can say this ends also with the rose too.
Yeah.
Because the rose in the water, and he tips. This is how he goes back to his life. The way. Let me read what Douchet says. He says, "Quote." Because remember, I just said Boudu was he was like, maybe I could be a bookseller myself or something. Because he says, quote, "At the same time, Boudu also dreams of being Lestinga. He dreams of this appearance of order, honesty, comfortable middle-class life. In other words, tranquility and security. The proof is in the end, when Boudu sees himself as a bookseller. He's become like Lestinga's associate or even benefactor. In the end, there's a mutual transference. Boudu has brought a lot to Lestinga, but Lestinga has brought a lot to Boudu. However, it's obvious that Boudu is too much of a force of nature to tolerate the constraints in which Lestinga finds refuge. These are two aspects of the desire to live and flourish. One aspect is comfort, with a certain cowardice towards reality, which isn't without its advantages. And Boudu is also cowardly in bowing to middle-class values. But when he returns to nature, among the trees and the river, his desire to live a natural, free life takes the upper hand. It's not for nothing that he spits in the physiology of marriage." Unquote. And I think that's a great kind of way to say why he jumps in this water. You know, this desire to go back to this kind of free life in nature, and just to escape from this kind of almost prison. He kind of sees himself with literally marriage as a prison in a way, you know. And yeah, we see this mix of music, like I said, the Blue Danube playing, and all of a sudden it cuts to silence and just the nature sounds. We don't hear the music anymore with this like amazing wide shot of Boudu's body just floating away from them.
Yeah.
You know? As everyone's panicking in the background, he's just kind of like reaching freedom, you know, with his peaceful nature sounds. And then we see him kind of just walk onto the shore. He's like now kind of, you could say he goes and steals the clothes off a scarecrow because he feels more natural in those clothes and like the rich clothes he had. And then
gets some bread and some meat from this random couple.
Another great example of him not being grateful because they give him food. He's like, "What about bread? Like, I need bread too."
He's like, "I need bread to eat with this."
Yeah. No, it's so funny.
And then it just ends how it begins.
At the beginning, he goes and sits next to a goat. Because I remember now we're back to silent. We're back to nature sounds only.
I didn't realize LeBron was alive at this time.
Damn. He's a goat.
LeBron. Oh. My God.
It took you way too long to get that.
And he ends up giving the food that he took for the goat.
Yeah, so he did the same thing at the beginning with the dog.
Exactly, because you think he's just being selfish. And he's like, he was planning to give it to some animal. So
yeah.
But that's when the music cuts in again, as he throws his hat in the water. No, it's not. He doesn't throw it. He sees the hat floating in the water after he had fallen, and the camera just pans over from him to the hat as the music cuts in, and then the last shots are we see the middle class family all together now, both women around him, as they're like wondering what happened, and then we get this last shot of kind of almost like a Bertavian shot of this like really extremely low angle shot of like this band walking by, which is an interesting shot for Renoir.
Yeah,
because he usually doesn't use these like sharp angles like that. But yeah, that's Boudu Saved from drowning. And we are back to talk about A Day in the Country. Initially filmed in, I think, 1936, but didn't come out or release until 1946. So I think that's why Letterboxd says 1946. But technically this film is actually much closer than the Letterboxd dates would say, because it was kind of actually filmed in the 30s and meant to be released. It was actually... Like, I know this film is famous for being an incomplete film. Yeah. But it was meant only to be 50 minutes long.
Damn. I love it.
It was meant to be a short film in general already. So it's not like this, like, half the film is missing or something.
Oh. So like, is the missing parts, though, is it in that time jump? Or no?
Yes, there's, like, one scene, apparently, that was missing from the script of them going back to the husband's workshop, or basically where he works. Yeah. And then also there's a scene at the beginning before they leave for the trip that they miss, and so the title cards basically tell us that. Yeah. Like what Bazin says is, quote, "The part of the story which was never filmed, which would have taken place in M. Dufour's shop, is insignificant. Thus, one can say that A Day in the Country is a perfectly finished work." And I mean, even if this movie was fucking supposed to be like 3 hours long, I don't care. Like this movie is basically a perfect finished movie, you know.
But okay. I love that kind of time jump, but we'll get.
Yes, I mean, you can go ahead. Like, go ahead. Like, why do you like this movie?
This movie's just fucking beautiful. Like, obviously, I love this movie. I watched this. I think I watched it the first time in like 2022, 2023, and even then, like. I immediately like attached myself to it. It's just like I love. I kind of love how like it almost feels kind of carefree a lot of the time. It has this like really like the way its carefree nature is like kind of like nice to sit with, and it's also has this like obviously the comedy too is great. But I don't know. It's just it's a beautiful film to kind of be in for me. Like so many amazing shots, and that like time jump too, just like straight into like this like this moment is like it was unforgettable for me, and I absolutely love that time jump. Like it's like I don't know how to describe why I like it. Maybe I'll have better words when we get to it, but yeah, it's amazing. I do love it, and I love the title too because it's kind of how the movie feels. It's just a day in the country.
Definitely. Yes.
But yeah.
Like, did you like this one?
No, yeah, I love this movie also. Like it definitely had me thinking of Ray's Nights and Days in the Forest a little bit, just in terms of like these people coming from their city life almost.
Yes.
into the country just for a little bit, just to try to experience like almost this getaway to try to connect to their base self. Yeah,
ripped him off again.
But it also has just like a lot of Rohmer to me. Also,
I was actually
like,
gonna say
damn.
that. To me, this is like so many Rohmer films feel like.
Yes,
especially when
it feels exactly like this.
Yes.
Rohmer's like, I understand my purpose now.
I mean, for real though, like, because if this was like 90 minutes, it would just make me think it was just gonna be another like a Rohmer film, like how that would feel. But just like I would appreciate.
Was this like was it the
version of this too.
Rohmer write about this movie at all?
I don't know.
Like,
he must have loved this.
Like, I wonder if it was like. Yeah, I don't know.
But I like how like it's 40 minutes long. Hardly any words happen, I feel like. At least none that I really remember that much. I mean, it's more just like based off of how these people move and look at each other that you get more of their feelings about their situations in life and kind of at least the younger girls, her acceptance of like this moment at the very least. Like that moment of acceptance is
yes.
pretty beautiful, but yeah, overall, really, really liked it, though.
No, I agree with both of you. I don't have much, I didn't get to read as much on this one as I did on Boudu, but I don't even know if there's as much written on this one, but there probably should be, because just, like the way this film treats the world and kind of, especially Henrietta, like her character, and, like, that's why I say this might be my Renoir favorite film in some ways, just, like, especially how much nature involves in this one. And this is also one of my favorite Renoir quotes I'm about to read. And he's talking about, in the context is, he's talking about how painters are the philosophers of the time. And he says, quote, "Cinema lags far behind painting. What we did in painting, we do in filmmaking 50 years later." And he says, well, some of my fellow filmmakers have the same concern. And he says his main concern is, this same concern is, quote, "about identifying the characters. To consider the world as a whole, that things aren't separate. It's not like there are humans, animals, trees, ponds. There's a world as a whole, and this world, each element of this world, has an effect on the conditions of another element. You can't think of a gnat, for example, without thinking of the bird that will eat the gnat." And then I think this is a Rivette that says this. He says, "So for you, film directing is pantheistic by essence." And then Renoir says, "I believe so. Obviously, it's a matter of temperament. It's extremely difficult for me not to see divinities around me, and not to imagine that nature's alive, and that trees talk to me. It's a bit pretentious, since trees are much smarter than me, much wiser, but I try to listen to them and learn their lessons." Unquote. And, like, yeah, like, I just agree with everything, like, that he says about that.
I found Eric Rohmer's 1961 Sight and Sound ballot, and he has Rules of the Game on there.
That makes sense.
So his list is kind of cool though. He has True Heart Susie, The General, Sunrise, Rules of the Game, Ivan the Terrible, Voyage in Italy, Red River,
of course,
Vertigo, Pocket, and La Pyramide Humaine, the Jean Roach movie.
Interesting.
He's like quite a lot of movies he's done on the podcast.
And that was in the 60s he did that?
61. So he was like just starting directing, I guess.
Like, I wonder if he, like, what list he would have made if he did that in, like, the 90s or something. Rohmer's another crazy one that made films in the 2000s, like, also like Rivette, that made films in the 2000s, but you think of him as, like, a 60s filmmaker.
Yeah.
Even though Rohmer
70s. 70s, 80s.
I mean, like, they started in the 60s.
No,
so
yes.
Old, but, like, actually with both directors, I think I like the later ones more, so... But to get back to Renoir, that quote, this is true with Rohmer too, because I've seen some of my favorite quotes from him are him talking about how much nature influences how he films his movies. You know, like he has this like great quote where he's like, "My films are determined by the weather. Like I can't do anything about. I basically have to listen to what the weather says to make my films." And there's this French critic named Daniel Valcroze. 100% didn't say that right. He calls this film as an amorous dialogue between Renoir and nature. I think that 100% goes with what that quote I just read from Renoir is about. I should say though, because the reason why this film people consider it incomplete is Renoir did not edit the film. Like he had filmed most of these scenes, there were a couple of scenes that were filmed by his like second director, Jacques Becker, who's also a pretty famous French director who made some films after. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, Jacques Becker.
Yeah. He was like a Renoir's AD for like a long time.
He made Les Trous, right?
I haven't seen any of this. I don't know. I knew you would know about him, but I haven't heard about him that much. But.
Yeah, I've seen Les Trous, which I'm pretty sure he directed.
But he was like Renoir's long time, basically AD. But basically the film was edited together by the producer Jacques Becker, Marguerite Renoir, who, even though she took his last name, they never got married.
She was like,
yeah, she still took his last name.
I can't have you, I'm gonna have that name.
Yeah, so like they never got officially married, but she was his lover all throughout the 30s and 40s, I think, and also was his editor too. But yeah, they basically put the film together after like 10 years later and released it. And they released it while Renoir was in America during his Hollywood phase. So like he had kind of forgotten about the film at that time because it was like 10 years later. Yeah. Raymond Durgnat also makes another kind of interesting point, which I thought you might agree with, is he says this film could be like an episode in Ophuls' Le Ronde. You know, this like could be like one of the episodes in that film.
Yeah, I can see that.
I thought that was a good...
Like with the affairs and everything?
Yeah, just this whole idea of desire and just like just this one little episode, you know. And
then you mean Les Plaisirs?
He says Le Ronde.
Okay.
But
because I feel like
Les Plaisirs, I guess with longer episodes.
Yeah.
But honestly, both of them are kind of similar things.
Yeah, that's true.
Going on. And then before we get to the actual film, I just wanted to mention, because I said at the very beginning of this episode, I mentioned the kind of idea of Renoir shifting between classical idioms, right? This idea of between classicism and romantic tragedy. Yeah. And I pointed out this film as an example. And he says this basically happens, how I said most of the time this film starts out as a neoclassical comedy for most of it, and then all of a sudden it takes this bittersweet romantic tragedy at the very end, you know. And he says, quote, "It happens as an unexpected violation of the narrative and tonal unity of the film, a shift from which the film never recovers." Right? So like once it makes that shift to romantic tragedy, it never can go back to the comedy, you know. Yeah. Like think about how the film ends, like it comes but on a kind of, you know, depressing note, like, at least for the characters, for sure.
Yeah.
And he says, quote, "What began as a bawdy neoclassical comedy has somehow turned into a bittersweet romantic tragedy. How has this happened? Without denying the radicalness of the shift we have just outlined, it is important to recognize that, unexpected as it feels, we have been in fact carefully prepared for it." And then he gives out two ways where how Renoir, and this is I think goes with the aesthetic discrepancy, basically all these themes I've already brought up, of how is Renoir able to do this, kind of make this sudden shift, you know? And he says he does it by two ways. He says, first, one way he has done this is by mobilizing our awareness of a sliding scale of acting styles. And he points out how the parents, Anatole, Renoir's innkeeper, the one Renoir plays, basically some of the minor characters, they're more grossly theatrical. They're more like a traditional theatrical. And then he says Henry, Henriette, and the maid, they have more restrained performances. You know, they're more kind of naturalistic, you could say. And he says that's one way he's already preparing the audience for this kind of shift in tones. But this is the other one I think is better, and I think goes with this kind of pantheistic nature of Renoir. He says, "Another important form of preparation results from the disjunction we feel between the dry, generic quality of the characters and the lush particularity of the scenery that surrounds them. This disjunction, which the dramatic logic of the film does not in any way foreground, nonetheless exerts a subconscious effect on the spectator." This idea of like these generic characters, but they're kind of, it's very disjunctive with the way nature is filmed. You know, it's like it's already being filmed very romantically. You know, even if the characters are in this kind of like classical comedy, you know, he's already preparing for this kind of romantic twist we're gonna get because just the way he's filming nature and how like nature's
and the way they're talking about it too.
And that's his last part. Who specifically?
The mom and the daughter.
The mom, but he says especially the daughter. But yeah, you could also say the mom too. I agree. He says it is the fact that Henriette alone gives expression to this awareness of nature, especially through her swinging and discussion of nature with her mother, that makes her moment of truth so convincing for us. And he's like, basically, he's been preparing, like, even in this classical comedy, she's been getting these kind of romantic inclinations already. You know? So he's prepared us for this kind of, and so he says, quote, in retrospect, she was always traversed by both idioms. Her tragedy stems from an inherent equivocation between her social identity as a bourgeois and her individualized romantic identity. Basically saying, like, she has always been in between these two mediums, you know, and that's where her tragedy even comes from. It's the fact that she's in this kind of classical world of, like, you know, the bourgeois family that she's in, how the film stars. Yeah. But she also has this kind of romantic individualism about her, you know. And those two can never come... They can only meet, basically, you could say, in this kind of Cytherea moment of the present, you know. But, like, once she has to go back to, like, you know, everyday life, it can't actually live, you know. But yeah, I think that's I think that was a good way of kind of describing that, of why this film, like, it seems like there's a sudden shift, but it doesn't feel like tonally, like, yes, it's a total shift, but it doesn't feel out of place, where it's like just all of a sudden just random, you know?
No, yeah.
Like, that's where the preparation comes in, like, about what a filmmaker does, you know? But you still, at least for me, I still feel that the twist, because as we're about to talk about, it is a very funny movie for most of the time.
Yes.
You know? And even, like, the second time I'm watching it, I'm like, does she like this guy? Like, because she is kind of just ignoring him the whole time, you know, just, like, not outwardly showing her romantic inclinations to him, you know?
Definitely.
But yeah, I think we can go ahead and let's get into it. As the credits tell us, this is from a story by Guy de Maupassant, a Renoir favorite. I haven't read it yet, but I kind of do want to read it still. It starts with this great shot of on nature, and then all of a sudden this, like, fishing rod just enters the frame from the foreground.
Yeah,
I fucking love it.
Weren't they more fishing poles back then?
Fishing pole, okay. Instead of a rod.
Well, because, like, they were a lot less, like... I actually have no idea why. I don't even know.
Why would a rod be different than a pole, though, in that case?
I thought a pole... Because they didn't have, like, all the fancy technology. I thought it became a rod when they got... Is that even correct?
I don't know.
Maybe.
I feel like you can go either way with that, but...
Difference between...
We know what he's talking about, at the very least, whenever he says fishing rod.
Yeah. But we see the parents with this whole family. All of a sudden, they're in the town. They're in the countryside.
I think I'm right because it says a fishing rod uses a reel and line to cast and retrieve line, whereas a fishing pole lacks these. So I don't think they had that shit back then.
They might have had it. Who knows?
No, there's no.
I don't think they did. But
yeah.
We see the family arrive. They're all excited about the country, you know, they want to eat. I think they talk about wanting to eat outside.
We'll have a picnic.
Yeah. They're excited about fishing too, and they're told they need to bring their own poles.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys noticed, we see Renoir. He's the... I guess he's the innkeeper, but I guess he's also the cook too. He's like the one... We also meet the kind of... I don't know how to describe them. You can say the two men, I kind of want to call them almost like
the country
hunter.
boys.
I want to call them like hunters.
I was supposed to say predators, but then I thought about it. I was like,
that's basically what I was thinking of, though, yeah.
I don't want to call them predators.
The country boys.
The country boys, yeah. I think they're actually a boatman.
Boatman, yeah.
That's why they have those nice boats. We'll say the two boatmen. But honestly, what Luke said is not far off, too.
Yeah, I mean, the way
especially the way they're acting, yeah.
The way they're acting.
Especially, like, the mustache twirling, you know.
Yes.
It's just... That guy's
so French.
I don't know what that means, but...
It's just really French.
Just the mustache, bro. Or...
The mustache
really
twirling.
That's like some French shit,
but this is a great kind of classic moment of Renoir in depth, where we see the oh my god, yes. Well, because they're all talking in the foreground, right, about the women. And then it's also a great moment because they're like, oh, we gotta get out of here while these Parisians are here. And then they open the window, see the two women swinging outside, and they're like, hey, maybe we should stay.
Yeah.
It's like, because it all happens in one sequence, too.
Yes, that's what. Yes, one shot, the window opens, all of a sudden, like a new world opens behind them. Yeah. And it's like, okay, yeah, we'll stay.
Yeah.
And then we get to the shots, some of the great shots
the Saiji
in cinema. No. Inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we get these just amazing shots of her swinging. Like Prakash Younger points out how this scene is an example of Renoir's disjunction and continuity, where like in this scene you can't actually, there's like no narrative thrust to it, so you never know what the next shot is actually technically going to be. The only one example of that is like it's still a funny moment where he reverse shots with the first we see the priests walking by and they're all staring at him.
Yeah.
Then we see some like little kids all walking by and they're staring at him. And then we see the two boatmen again and they're like fucking like looking through the window, like, really staring at him.
They're praying, bro.
Yes, exactly.
The one guy literally goes like, "Man, I wish he'd sit down because then the view'd be even better." I was like,
"Damn, it would be much more interesting."
Yes, and I think this is an important thing I'm about to read. This idea of like, it's like, you remember I talked about continuity editing on the experimental series. And this idea of like, that was like the classic Hollywood, like everything needs to be clear. The next shot should predict the next shot. Everything should flow smoothly like that with narrative action. And then Prakash Younger says Renoir is not opposed. He's not like an experimental film director where they're trying to make you openly aware of like this disjunction, But at the same time, he says, quote, "This style of editing is not categorically opposed to the concerns of narrative, which are sufficiently supported by a very loose sense of continuity editing within scenes, but functions to give each scene an oblique, hesitant, indirect quality. They are narrative events that we do not see or hear, and we see or hear narrative events that do not seem to be part of the events that do not seem to be a part of the narrative. This gives us the sense that any scene is inhabited by more than one narrative, that there's more going on than we are able to take in," unquote. And I think that's just like a great way of like, within narrative, almost being experimental. This idea of like I said, like in this swinging scene, like he's just showing shots that he'll enjoy showing for swinging. Yeah. It's not necessarily like some kind of narrative reason for all these shots we get. But at the same time, like we still understand what's going on. It's not like experimental disjunction where it's like trying to confuse you or just show almost random moments or something. It's still within this kind of narrative. He's able to kind of find this disjunction, which I think is just kind of beautiful. But yeah, then we get we get the predators or the boatmen deciding to. They actually had this conversation how they're deciding which woman.
Yeah.
And this is another kind of Renoir twist where like they're all planning for one woman or the other, but then like they can't even control which woman they're going to go after.
Yeah. Was the mustache guy wants the younger one? Yes. The guy that ends up with her wants the mom at first because he doesn't want responsibilities if he knocks her up.
And I don't know if you remember, like the reason why the Henry, he's like the kind of non-mustache guy.
Okay.
It's easy to remember because Henry and Henrietta are the two like lovers. But it's actually Renoir who comes in and is like, because he's like, "Oh, don't you think the daughter's so beautiful?" And he's like, "No, I'm talking about the mother. The daughter's way too skinny for me." And Renoir's like, he's like laughing while he says it too. But yeah, that's when the Henry's like, "Oh yeah, he actually has a point. Like I actually got the mother." But yeah, that's when they decide to enact their plan. We cut back to the family. And this is, we first see a quick shot of, I don't know if we haven't mentioned Anatoly yet, the kind of weird son-in-law.
Oh, yeah. That's like gonna marry.
Yeah, that's going to marry,
Henriette.
We're actually told that in the title card, if you remember. Yeah. The title card tells us, the son-in-law is on the trip with them, that's Anatoly. But I forgot who says this. They probably shouldn't have put that in the title card. Because it would make the reveal better that she was married to this guy later.
It would, yeah.
Like that was like something the editors did.
Thankfully, I missed it the first time, so I was shocked whenever the title card came later. I was like, what? She married that guy?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's the kind of shock you're supposed to get,
Looks, yeah.
But like, there's like that quick scene of them like kind of trying to fish, and we get the just the amazing shot of like
trying to fish with the fucking like tree branch.
With the tree branch.
It's like you're scaring all the fish away. What are you doing?
Especially since like the husband, he's like acting like he knows everything.
Yeah,
it's even more funny because like they have no idea what they're doing. But there's like, because I mean, I love shots of water reflection. And there's that great shot of them just like talking while he is showing them the reflection in the water. And then he just slowly pans up to show them actually talking in the same shot. And Anatoly says, "Rivers are filled with strange things," and the husband says, "That's for sure. Nature has not yet revealed all her secrets." Unquote. And I think that's like goes back to this pantheistic quote I read about Renoir. And I mean, continuing with that, this is where we get maybe my favorite Renoir scene ever is this caterpillar scene.
Yeah, that's a great scene.
Oh my gosh. I'm just gonna read it. It's kind of like I just want to read their conversation, where the daughter says, "Look at this lovely golden caterpillar." I'm just gonna read it back and forth for the mother and daughter, and then mother says, "Don't touch it. You'll get a rash." Jesus, it's not dirty. All it eats is grass. How amazing the country is. Dozens of tiny things under each plate of grass, living and moving. And the mother says, "That's nature." And she says, "We risk crushing them with each step." And the mother says, "Think like that, you'll never do anything." And then she says, "I wonder if those little creatures feel joy and sorrow like us." And she says, "Of course." And the mother says, "Of course not. They're not people. Besides, they're too small." And then Henrietta says, "Still, they're born and die like us." And the mother says, "I wonder how caterpillars have babies." And she says, "They don't." And then Henrietta says, "They don't. That one, so fat and golden, will surely become a lovely butterfly." And the mother says, "What strange, funny things, just like us." And then that's how it ends. Actually, no, never mind. There's a little later on where she says, Henrietta says maybe the kind of theme, this kind of romantic inclination I've talked about, where she says, "Did you feel," and she's asking her mother this, she says, "Did you feel an immense tenderness for it all? For the grass, the water, the trees? A vague sort of yearning. It starts here, then it rises. It almost makes me want to cry. Tell me, mother, did you feel like that when you were young?" And then the mother says, "Dear child, I still feel like that, but I'm more reasonable now."
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad, but this is basically this whole theme of the movie, you know, this feeling of Sithara being in the moment versus, like, you're not allowed to feel that like that anymore, you know?
Yeah.
The real world doesn't, you have to be more reasonable. And there's just an amazing moment, too. I don't know if you guys realized it. As they're talking about these insects and, like, being kind of like how they're just like us, there's, like, a little bug that just, like, crawls on the mother's shoulder. Just, like, almost, like, randomly. Like, I don't even think it's part of, like, they didn't put the bug there, you know? It just starts crawling. But, like, it fits the scene so fucking perfectly, you know? Almost like the bug is listening to her talk, too.
They paid the bug. He's actually a
exactly.
SAG union member.
It's just, like, I can't even believe, like, it's just, like, too accidental. Like, it almost feels too amazing to happen.
Feels too good to be true.
Yeah, I was like, damn. But yeah, it's like, that's why I say, like, that moment is, like, one of my favorites, too.
Yeah, Truffaut got a cat to act, and Renoir gets a fly to act. That's why Renoir's better.
Oh, you're talking about in
Day for Night.
Day for Night. That is a great scene, too.
Yeah.
That is a great scene. But yeah, we cut back to the two boatmen.
Well, I think it's also right after that scene they get up, and it's really funny because the mom just got done saying all this, and then she's like, "Oh, all this dirt out here in the countryside," and she's like,
no, she's gonna have her moments of going back and forth later.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'll say it now, like where she's like seducing the husband.
Yeah,
and she's like all like she doesn't care about what's around her, right? And then the husband just like rejects her.
Yes.
And all of a sudden her mood changes 100%. She's like, "Oh, there's fucking ants everywhere."
Yeah.
Like,
she like hates it again.
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of feel that because I'm kind of the same way.
Like you could just be taken out of the moment too.
Yeah.
Like, oh, just like how nature sucks.
I fucking love nature. Fucking hate nature.
No, it like the way you say predator. This is like the scene where it's most likely because like the way they're discussing how they need to capture. They're like, for the mother, it's best to swoop down like an eagle, and
because they're talking about like fishing. So
yeah, and they're like, then they see the hat they left on the ground.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, here's the bait. Like,
Although he does the guy, I think it's Henry has a really good line because he just lays down smoking. He goes like, "Oh, there's nothing like a good smoke in the grass."
No, yeah, they have their little small moments.
Yeah,
and this is where you could say he's even starting to have a little more of his romantic inclinations too, if you listen for it, because like you said, that moment. But there's a part where he picks up the flower with all the hats on it.
Yeah,
and he just says this little line of, "I can imagine her pinning on these flowers in the morning."
Yes.
You know, just like showing he's actually thinking about her like doing something. You know, like it's kind of a little sweet moment, like her thinking about her actually just doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's when they also complain about the flies too, and they see the storm coming and everything.
Yeah.
Maybe also foreshadowing the ending for sure. But that's like at the same time we've learned the family's like wanting to ride in a boat. They see this boats nearby. They see the boatmen's boats nearby, and they're like, "Oh, these boats are so nice. You know, I wish we could ride on them." But I don't think you're allowed to rent any or anything. But that's when you could say the movie kind of they enact their plan because the family comes back and they're in their spots and they're like, "Oh, let me go give the hat back to her" and stuff. That's when they talk for the first time. As he gives the hat, and then like it's so funny because like it cuts to the bourgeois family sitting there, "Oh, those guys are so nice,
so
you know?
warm hair boys."
Yeah, like the way they're talking about it versus like how they think they are, you know. Because like I love how the bourgeois husband says he's like, "They're definitely not tradesmen, that's for sure." Because like how nice they are. No, and then but then it cuts right back to them. Like one of them says, "Oh, they took the bait. They'll swallow it hook, line, and sinker." Like literally right after they're being told how polite they are and stuff. But yeah, this is where I said like already we get this like long scene of I think they do eat and they get drunk. Yeah. And that's when they're
because all they have is wine.
Yeah, and they're all just laying out on like just relaxing.
I love the kitten that the grandma has. Yes. She just picked it up at the very beginning and still just carrying it around like the cat got swept up along also.
And that will kind of become like a plot point too, because that's the way Renoir gets rid of her to leave the scene.
Yeah, because the cat
runs
leaves.
Away, the kitten runs away later, and she's like falling asleep. She's like, "Oh, where'd it go?"
Yeah,
and that's when she just walks off. But yeah, that's when she walks off, and then the husband and Anatoly walk off because they're like, "Oh, we need water. If you're a real man, you go get us water."
Yeah.
Like, okay, fine. And they go and walk to get it off, and that's when they're like, "Oh, this is our chance." And the two boatmen come in, like, they come and start talking to him, and that's when, if you watch this scene, this is where I'm like, Henrietta feels very uncomfortable. Like she's sitting in the middle, the mustache guy's on one side of her, and the mom's on the other side of her, and they're talking, but she never says anything. But it's clear like that the mustache guy wants to talk to her, and he's like, "Oh, you look so graceful while you're swinging on the swing." She doesn't even acknowledge it. All she just changes the conversation to is like, "Oh, can we use your boats to to go riding?" Like basically like at this whole time showing like she has no interest in them. Just she wants to go in these boats, you know, basically use them. But yeah, they end up agreeing. You can see these two boatmen are kind of smarter than they look because they're like, "Oh, we can also get the husband and Anatoly on our side by just giving them fishing rods."
Well, they agree, but then they still have to go through the courtessy of asking the dad for permission. So, like the girls
But that's basically the fishing rods are like a grease.
Yes. Know? Oh, definitely.
That's their whole plan, you know, and it works like a charm because this guy he doesn't even want to see his wife.
No.
But yeah, this is like these are very quick cinematic moments, I would say, because like it's not overemphasized, but how much like up in the air he leaves on which character is actually going to end up with Henrietta. Like it's very ambiguous until this very end because like now Henry's obviously interested in her too, and it's funny because there's like an initial shot of Henry grabbing her hand to walk with her.
Mm.
Then Renoir cuts to a new shot. The mustache guy takes her away, and now they're walking together to the water. And then there's a last shot. Henry finally gets her and takes her back. All of that just like it's very quick too, but they basically pass her off. They keep passing her off, like they're both fighting over her. And Henry ends up with her while the glasses guy ends up with the mother, which is like the exact opposite of what they initially wanted. And then we get these kind of cross cuts between both of their boat rides, where we get the kind of I said the Watteau pause moment of Henry. Basically pursuing Henrietta, where she's kind of just like passively resistant, you know.
Yeah. Talking about the nightingales.
Talking about the silence. I love though where honestly this might be a character. This is something a Rohmer character would say, where she says, "Maybe it's the way you row, but we glide along so beautifully." It's so quiet here that it seems wrong to make any noise, to break the silence. And he says, silence, with the birds chattering away. And she says, their song is part of the silence. I'm like, damn, that sounds like something a romantic character would say.
I felt that. Okay.
That's a great line. But yeah, he's like, oh, do you want to go to a shore, just to stretch our legs and stuff? And she's like, oh, no, I don't want to. But then she finally ends up going. They end up to. And yeah, like this whole time, like I don't know if you. There's a shot from a similar movie, not a similar movie, but a movie we did when they're both walking on the shoreline together, and the camera's just perfectly tracking with them with the water behind.
Yeah.
Do you remember what movie I'm talking about?
Parade or Traffic.
No.
Oh.
Actually, I know the shot. That's with the boat.
Okay.
I'm talking about
Florence the Dreamer.
Young Mr. Lincoln.
Oh.
When him and Anne are walking along the water while they're both talking.
That.
You wouldn't have gone.
I would have gone. I was going through my boat movies from the shore.
It's almost a similar kind of angle too.
Scene of the
like
sea.
Same distance. With the camera just tracking along as they're both talking. In this one, they're way more physical versus like Mr. Lincoln. He's very respectful. So
yeah.
This is more of a way more passionate guy. But
the girl's hunting him.
He even
not
says,
hunting the girl.
He even says, "quote I come here often. I call it my private office." He says that to her, and like it's funny because there's these great shots of her just staring at this bird while he's trying to like seduce her. All she cares about is this bird in the tree. Just like a great cut to the bird too, but then we get a shots of her watching the bird, and then to me it's still shocking that the fact like. This is where the twist happens, where it becomes this kind of romantic tragedy. Where I think this whole time she's going to be rejecting her. The whole tone of the movie has been kind of leading to like she's just going to reject him, as she has been.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what makes this film like kind of totally change, where she does end up kissing him, and they kind of have basically their moment, Yeah,
he's the Wizard of Oz, bro.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah. That's all basically right after that. This is where it's like even the tone of the whole movie shifts. This whole movie's been filmed like in bright sunlight. Most of the frames have been very bright. Even the shadows have been bright. All of a sudden we cut to this storm. Now we're getting dark shadows. We're getting rain. Just like I said, everything is shifted in the film, literally and metaphorically. But even then, even in the stormy shots, there's some great shots of nature where this like feels like it would be in like a early kind of French. Poetic realist, like experimental poetic realism film,
Like the shots of
the shot where it's on the boat and we're watching the water hit the rain hit the water as in close up.
I mean, I feel like we've seen this in Ray's like what Apargito, is that the one that's in, or one of them has this scene, or am I thinking of Ritwik Gata?
Pather Panchali has kind of
a
a
rain
storm
scene.
scene.
Am I thinking of Cloudcap Star though?
You might be thinking Gata
because he has scenes like this too. I feel
honestly,
like,
yes,
for sure.
Yes,
Yo,
yes. Also, he's another great example of this guy where framing is not everything.
Definitely.
He's definitely more of a messy, but he still has some amazing frames, even within this kind of like. You might call him messy initially. But yeah, this is where, like Luke said, we get this amazing time jump all of a sudden. From the storm to years past.
Yeah, see, this is where I thought they cut out like a bunch of the movie before I.
It's not really. We just missed the kind of scene of years later.
Yeah.
I think that makes it way better. Just this.
It's hard cut. Yeah.
Yes. And it just emphasizes this kind of the sudden shift I've been talking about between the comedy to tragedy all of a sudden. But then we're just right back the same location.
The same location, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the camera was left there.
And this is the traffic shot I think you're talking about, because I even put traffic in my notes for this shot,
really? Okay.
where we see Henry first taking his boat alone to the spot. We're just watching him row, and there's a shot with the camera watching the boat go by.
Yeah.
And it's like that's one of my favorite shots in Traffic too. Is when they're in the countryside.
Tati probably watched this movie.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if he...
I mean, we've kind of described Boudu as an agent of chaos and a middle class value too.
Yeah.
Value like a Mon Uncle or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just he's way less cruel and.
Definitely, yeah.
Just like vulgar, as like Boudu is, but honestly, Mon Uncle really fits that. I feel like. But then we get this last scene of him meeting her again. Now she's with Anatoly, her husband. and she sees him, and they kind of have their moment in the nearby as he sleeps. Did you think she was gonna kiss him?
Yeah.
It does tease like that, I think the music is even going rising.
I think if he wouldn't have woken up, obviously it would have happened.
You think so?
Yeah.
I feel like that's what this is. This whole movie is like this. Cytheric island, the island of Cythera, is them asleep, and her waking up to reality is the kind of husband, and that happens literally in the film, The same thing as the mother says later is like, I became reasonable later on. But she still has that feeling inside of her, It's almost like you could say she ends it the same way. Like she still has that feeling inside of her, but
did the mother have sex with the other guy?
I mean, that is you could say that's a loose no for sure. No, but it's there's amazing shots of like where Renoir wants to be master of framing. He can be of after Henry's watching them walk away.
Yeah,
we get an over the shoulder shot of him watching them walk away, and then camera stays on him, and it basically converts to a close up as he like lights a cigarette and turns around, to all of a sudden become a close up as he's lighting a cigarette alone. Just like. It's so simple, but like just doing all that, like getting multiple kind of angles and shots in one take, it's always hard to do. That's why every studio film just cuts. That's everything is a cut because it's hard to plan stuff like that. But yeah, that's how the movie ends. Is him sitting alone on the tree, and just like as I've said before, I love empty frames in cinema. This film ends on an empty frame after he leaves with just the water. And the trees with the water running. So yeah, that's a day in the country. Fun episode.
Amazing movie.
Next week we're doing the rules of the game and Diary of a Chambermaid. The reason I'm picking Diary of a Chambermaid, I'll talk about next week. But yeah. But yeah, until then.
Why?
Tune in next week to find out. There we go. But yeah, until next week, hope to see you floating through the clouds.